Chapter 12:12. However, unlike the 10,000 bee sting, this sword was severely damaged, so its power was greatly reduced. It was impossible for it to display the true power of an Earth-class weapon. However, compared to a normal half-Earth-class weapon, it was still much stronger. On the side, Zhao Shui also used her void eye to observe carefully. She then said in a low voice, "I'm afraid this sword can't be used easily." "Oh, what did you find?" "There's not much energy left inside. It's barely enough to keep it from breaking. If this energy is released, the entire sword will shatter. At that time, this Earth-class weapon will also shatter. So that's how it is." Lin Xian was shocked. Zhao Shui's eye technique was unparalleled, so this information should be accurate. How many times can this sword be used if we want to display the sword energy that connected the heavens and earth? Probably around 3 times. Zhao Shui observed carefully. 3 times. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and thought for a while. That should be enough. "What do you want to do with it?" Zhao Shui asked. "This sword is very powerful. It's a waste to use it against normal warriors. What do you think about using it against the heavenly netherbird?" "You want to deal with the heavenly netherbird?" Zhao Shui was very surprised to hear Lin Xian's words. The heavenly netherbird's power was obvious to all. Even a king-level warrior might not be able to defeat it. And now, Lin Xian actually wanted to make a move against him. This was truly shocking. However, when she thought of Lin Xian's actions, Zhao Shui understood. However, there was one thing that she was very confused about. Could this sword really hurt the heavenly netherbird? "I don't know if it can hurt it, but one thing is for sure. The heavenly netherbird is very afraid of this sword. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent 2 people from the Holy Bird Palace to steal it. With this sword, they would be able to deal with the heavenly netherbird." The next step was to find the key to the star chain. If they had it in their hands, the heavenly netherbird would be even more afraid. Of course, they couldn't let those people break their ray. Otherwise, they would be in danger when the heaven netherbird came in. Next, Lin Xian tried to find a way to control the sword. This treasured sword was dark green in color. It floated in the air, and on its hilt were the words "Song Song." The ashen pine sword. Could it be that this treasured sword was the weapon used by the peerless powerhouse in the past? When Lin Xian saw these 2 words, his heart also burned with passion. This powerhouse named Song Song was able to suppress even the heavenly netherbird back then. One could imagine how powerful he was. The sword he had left behind was absolutely terrifying. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's eyes burned with passion as he reached for the ashen pine sword. Normally, the ashen pine sword would flicker with light. Although its aura was fierce, it would always be concealed. However, once it received a threat from the outside world, the long sword would emit a hum, and streaks of dark green sword light would soar into the sky. Lin Xian used the shadow of the red lotus armor. Even so, he was still hurt by the sword chi. His blood and chi roiled, and cracks appeared on the armor. This was only the sword chi emitted by the long sword. If it was controlled by someone else, it would probably be able to split his red lotus armor. As expected of an earth-rank treasure, "It's really terrifying," Lin Xian exclaimed. Other than the complete 10,000 bee sting in his hands, he didn't have anything that could compete with the other party. Of course, the great dragon sword soul was an exception. Feeling the violent sword chi, Lin Xian immediately used the great dragon sword soul. Streaks of dragon-shaped sword shadows flew forward, emitting deep dragon roars and sword cries. It was amazing. When the sword chi condensed by the great dragon sword soul wrapped around the ashen pine sword, the latter suddenly stopped going berserk and calmed down. Seeing this, Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief. The great dragon sword soul was indeed an offensive saint art. It was incomparably mysterious. Even the powerful earth-rank treasure sword could only calm down in front of it. Taking a deep breath, countless dragon-shaped sword chi wrapped around his palm. Then, Lin Xian grabbed the sword in front of him. In the next moment, he grabbed the ashen pine sword in his hand. This time, the ashen pine sword did not resist. He slightly channeled his spiritual power into the ashen pine sword. Then, the ashen pine sword shone brightly. Countless green sword rays surged out and instantly dyed the palace green. Success! Seeing this, Zhao Shui breathed a sigh of relief. The next step was to find the key to remove the nebula chain. After removing the formation, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui left the secluded palace. Not long after they left, they met many warriors. The Shen family was leading them. When the Shen family saw Lin Xian, their eyes lit up. It couldn't be helped. Now, everyone knew that the peerless godly weapon was in Lin Xian's hands. It was a peerless godly weapon. It was something left behind by an ancient expert. One could imagine how precious it was. If anyone could get their hands on it, their strength would definitely increase greatly. It could even bring their family to a higher level, especially the House of Kings. They were determined to get their hands on it. So now, they looked at Lin Xian with envy. When Lin Xian saw these people, he knew what they were thinking. He snorted coldly. Suddenly, an extremely green sword qi appeared behind him. The green sword radiance emitted an extremely terrifying aura. It was like the might of a king. Boom! Feeling this terrifying aura, the warriors in front trembled. Their eyes were filled with fear. It was as if they were not facing a long sword, but an extremely terrifying king. In an instant, the 9th young master, 11th young master, and 13th young master's faces turned pale, especially the 9th young master. Besides fear, there was also a strong sense of jealousy in his eyes. Of course, in this situation, he did not dare to do anything. As for the Shen family's elders and elders, they were shocked when they saw this. How can it be? How can he control such a peerless, godly weapon in such a short time? They were too shocked. Although peerless, godly weapons were powerful, they were not easy to subdue. This was especially true for weapons passed down from ancient times. Some of them even needed to be refined again. So, in their opinion, although Lin Xian had obtained the peerless godly weapon, he could not control it in a short time. This gave them a chance. If they planned carefully, they might be able to snatch the peerless godly weapon back from him. But now, they had completely given up. Judging from the current situation, Lin Xian had already controlled the peerless godly weapon. Otherwise, he could not emit that kind of sword radiance. This made them extremely shocked. They could not understand what method Lin Xian had used to subdue the peerless, godly weapon in such a short time. Perhaps even the House of Kings did not have such a method. Chapter 12:13. Young Master, let's retreat first. The elder of the Shen family quickly advised. He was afraid that Jiao Gongzi and the rest would rush forward. All right. Jiao Gongzi and the rest did not dare to take the risk in the face of the terrifying sword Dao Qi. They immediately led everyone away. Seeing the Shen family's martial artists leave, the surrounding martial artists felt like they were in a dream. The House of Kings was scared away without even making a move. Just thinking about it made their blood boil. The House of Kings was the most powerful force in the Tianwu continent. It was an existence that everyone could only look up to. But now, someone had used their aura to scare away the House of Kings. This was the dream of every martial artist. However, Lin Xian was probably the only one who could do such a thing. Seeing the Shen family's people leave, Lin Xian felt great. Once upon a time, the House of Kings was like a mountain that he could only look up to. But now, he had grown to the point where he could compete with the House of Kings. Of course, he knew that the House of Kings was terrifying. It was impossible for them to only have this much strength. However, he was not afraid of anyone in the remote sky secret realm. Lin Xian's eyes were like lightning as he looked around. He then said in a deep voice, "Everyone, there is one thing that I would like to remind everyone. We are not enemies. There is no need to fight to the death as soon as we meet. Our common enemy is the heavenly nether bird. Don't forget that if we can't find a way in a month, the heavenly nether bird will appear and none of us will be able to survive. Hearing this, many martial artists' faces turned pale and their bodies trembled. That's right. They had only been fighting for treasures and had forgotten that they were still in danger. They were still under the threat of the heavenly nether bird. In a month's time, the heavenly nether bird would appear. The heavenly nether bird was extremely terrifying. None of them would be able to stop it. When the heavenly nether bird appeared, they would have no way to survive. Seeing everyone's pale faces, Lin Xian said again, "Of course, you don't have to be so emotional. As long as we find the key to the star chains, there might still be a glimmer of hope." The key to the star chains. Yes, the heavenly nether bird was bound by the mysterious star chain. As long as he could find the key to the star chain, he would have the qualifications to negotiate with the heavenly nether bird. Thinking of this, everyone's eyes regained their luster. Many of them clenched their fists and swore to find the key to the star chains. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that everyone's emotions had been roused. The pine hall was actually quite big. If it was just Lin Xian searching by himself, it might have taken a lot of effort. However, things were different now. With so many people searching together, it wouldn't take long for them to find the location of the stellar key. This way, it would save him the trouble of looking for it. When the time came, he would only need to break the array formation. Sure enough, in the following days, other than searching for treasures, they also set off a trend of searching. Because this matter was closely related to everyone's lives, no one dared to be careless. In the end, after everyone's hard work, they ruled out other places and finally locked onto 2 places. These 2 places were completely different. One was in the north, and the other was in the south. The only thing they had in common was that these 2 places were protected by powerful spirit arrays. They should be the core of the entire Deep Pine Palace. The one in the south was called the Pine Hall, and the one in the north was called the Star Hall. This news was like a hurricane that instantly spread throughout the Pine Hall. In an instant, everyone knew. However, these people did make a move. Instead, they began to discuss intensely. This was because they didn't have much time left. Moreover, the array formation was so powerful that with their strength, they would only be able to break through one place. Therefore, it was extremely important to find the location to break through. Many of them chose the Star Hall. This was because, from the name, it was obvious that this hall was related to the stellar chains. It was very likely that the key to the stellar chains was hidden inside. Once they had the key, they would have the qualifications to negotiate with the heaven netherbird. However, there were others who didn't think so. As far as they were concerned, whether or not they could break the astral chains was meaningless to them. This was because even if the heaven netherbird had the stellar chains, with their strength, they wouldn't be able to contend against it. Therefore, breaking through the stellar chains was extremely unimportant. Instead, it was the other hall that attracted their attention. The Pine Hall. This place was called the Pine Hall. Lin Xian's treasure sword was also called the Pine Hall. It was obvious that the name Pine Hall was the name of the ancient powerhouse. Since the hall was named Pine Hall, it could be said to be the most important place in the entire Pine Hall. Presumably, there was a defense room that controlled the Big Dipper 7 Stars formation. Moreover, according to these people's estimations, the Pine Hall didn't only have a control room. There were also other treasures, such as cultivation techniques and the like. This was because after searching for so long in the Pine Hall, they had obtained many treasures and even weapons. However, the only thing that they hadn't obtained was a cultivation technique. Thinking about it, those cultivation methods should be hidden in this Pine Palace. Therefore, these people urgently wanted to enter the Pine Hall. In an instant, the crowd was divided into 2 factions. The factions that supported breaking through the Pine Hall were the Palace of War and the Shin family's House of Kings. There were also the Divine Bird Palace and many other rank 6 sects. The factions that supported the Star Hall were the Morong family and the Merry Forest. There were also many rank 6 sects that supported them. It could be said that both sides were evenly matched. No one could convince the other. In the end, these people decided to split up. The Palace of War and the Shen family led a group of warriors to the Pine Hall in the south. The Murong family and the Merry Forest teamed up to break through the Star Hall in the north. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes when he heard the news. However, in the end, he chose to go to the Star Hall. This was because even if they found the control room, they wouldn't be able to stop the heavenly Netherbird. If that was the case, it would be better to find the key to break the Star Hall. Lin Xian brought the Crimson Dragon and flew towards the Star Hall with Zhao Shui. Not long after, they saw a blue pagoda. The pagoda was tall and majestic. The material on the outside was like the stars shining brightly. Not only that, they also saw a mysterious array that covered the entire Star Hall. This meant that they could only enter if they broke the array. Everyone, we can only break the array if we work together. Murong Qingqing's expression was very serious. After that, the Murong family and the Merry Forest House of Kings sent out array masters. They worked together with other warriors who were proficient in array masters. They began to research and break the array. At the same time, the Palace of War and the Shen family arrived at the Pine Hall in the north. Chapter 12:14. At the same time, the Palace of War and the Shen family also arrived at the Pine Pavilion in the north. It was a very simple and unadorned pavilion. It gave off an ancient and desolate aura, as well as a terrifying pressure. That kind of pressure even surpassed that of a king. This made these people very excited. A secret manual left behind by an ancient expert was definitely a rare treasure. If they could obtain 1 or 2 of it, their strength would definitely increase greatly. Thinking of this, these people were also excited and quickly formed a team to crack it. In a moment, both sides were in full swing. At the Star Pavilion, the Crimson Dragon held his chin and continued to study. Lin Xian's expression was also serious as he said in a deep voice, "It seems that this array is not inferior to the Big Dipper array outside. It is indeed not as simple as the Big Dipper array outside." The Crimson Dragon also nodded. But this time our situation is better because we still have enough time. Although they were under pressure now, they still had a month's time. They were not under the heaven Netherbird's feet, like last time. They believed that with the Crimson Dragon's ability, they should be able to crack it. If that's the case, then we won't delay any longer. Lin Xian stopped his work and said loudly, "Everyone, how is your research going? This array is too exquisite, as expected of an ancient array. Yeah, I have never seen such a profound array in my life. It will be very difficult to crack it. Why don't you let me think about it?" The group of array masters looked troubled. Indeed, with their strength, it was too difficult to break this ancient array. But then they all looked at Lin Xian and said, "Kid, how did you enter the Big Dipper array last time?" "Yeah, we couldn't even crack that array." "How did you get in? Are you an array master? Or do you have an array master with you?" Everyone looked at Lin Xian with suspicion. However, the corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up slightly. "I do have a formation expert by my side. If you guys can listen to his orders, you might be able to break this formation very quickly." "What? There really is an array master. Where is he? Ask him to come out. This old man must learn from him." The group of formation grandmasters were all excited. It couldn't be helped. The other party was an array formation grandmaster that could break the Big Dipper formation. His strength far surpassed theirs. If they could befriend such a person, perhaps their array formation standards would increase greatly. This was an opportunity that might not be encountered even in 100 years. Therefore, these people were abnormally excited. "All right, Rousalong, it's your turn." Lin Xian waved his hand. "All right." Ben Huang will reluctantly teach them. The Crimson Dragon walked out with his head held high. "Since you guys are sincerely asking for guidance, then Ben Huang will be merciful and tell you." "That's right. I am that formation master." Puff. Hearing this, Everyone's saliva sprayed out, especially those array masters. All of them widened their eyes and their beards curled up. Brat, you dare to tease this old man. Damned snake! How dare you take advantage of me? The group of array masters stomped their feet in anger. Seeing this scene, the Crimson Dragon was also unhappy. A group of ignorant humans. Ben Huang is so angry that he doesn't cherish such a good opportunity. Seeing so many array masters quarreling with a snake, the surrounding people were all stunned. Lin Xian, what the hell are you doing? The elders were also very confused. However, Lin Xian shrugged and pointed at the Crimson Dragon. I told you, it's the array master you're looking for. Hearing this, the array masters were so angry that their noses became crooked. All right. I'd like to see what tricks a snake can play. Brat, I'm really angry. If you don't give me a reasonable explanation today, don't blame me for not letting you go. A snake actually knows about formations? You must be dreaming. Are you still asleep? The group of people didn't believe it. Ben Huang is so angry. Look carefully. The Crimson Dragon stomped his feet in anger. Then he turned and pointed at the array in front of him. Do you know what array this is? This is the Migraz fly array. This array has a total of 124 variations. Among them, there are only 2 life gates. The rest are all dead. If you take a wrong step, you'll be doomed eternally. Moreover, this array absorbs the power of the stars and contains the 5 elements technique. It can be said that it's very complicated. It's not something people like you can understand. The Crimson Dragon's words silenced the array masters, and the surrounding warriors looked at each other. Judging from his boastful manner, he didn't seem like a liar. Could he really be an array master? But how could this be possible? A snake was actually an array master? This was unacceptable. The array masters were very shocked because what the Crimson Dragon said was completely correct. They had never even heard of some of these arrays. Then, do you have a way to break it? An old man asked in a trembling voice. Use the twin yin-yang formation and the reverse 5 elements technique to break it. The Crimson Dragon said snappily, I reckon you don't know these 2 things at all. You might not even have heard of them. This time, the array masters didn't mock him. Instead, they were shocked. Then, one by one, they screamed, What? The twin yin-yang formation? That's a lost array. You really know the twin yin-yang formation? These old men were very excited. They only knew the reverse 5 elements technique, and the twin yin-yang formation was only heard of in legends. But they had never seen it before. Now, there was a snake who knew the twin yin-yang formation. This shocked them and made them very confused. The Crimson Dragon curled his lips, then stretched out his dragon claws and waved them in the air. Suddenly, 2 balls of black and white gas appeared on the dragon claws. They kept spinning and finally formed a yin-yang diagram. That's right. It's really the twin yin-yang formation. This scene is exactly the same as in the legends. Great Master, you really are a great master. Senior, I offended you just now. Please don't take it to heart. Great Master, are you still accepting disciples? What do you think of me? It's okay if you don't accept disciples. I can be your follower. I can even serve tea and water. At this moment, a group of array formation masters had gathered around the dark red divine dragon and were shrieking. The surrounding martial artists were all dumbfounded. That's an array formation grandmaster. He was an existence that all the major forces treated as a guest of honor. Normally, he was also highly respected by others. But now, they didn't look like masters at all. They looked like a group of children. The Morong family and the elders of Mary Woods twitched their mouths. Morong Qingchen, on the other hand, was chuckling. She was also aware of the dark, red, godly dragon's miraculous abilities. Presumably, under its guidance, they should be able to break through the Star Pavilion's formation. Chapter 12:15. All right, stop arguing. Line up properly. The crimson dragon waved his hand impatiently. All right, great God, we'll listen to you. Immediately, the array masters lined up neatly. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people's jaws dropped even further. Were they still array masters? Why did it feel like they were more obedient than the disciples? It wasn't that they didn't understand, but that the world was changing too quickly. The crimson dragon nodded in satisfaction and waved his hand. Next, I'll assign you a task. You must complete it well. If I'm satisfied, I can teach you a thing or two. Really? Hearing this, the array masters were excited. Great God, don't worry. We promise to complete the task. All right, let's cut to the chase. The crimson dragon commanded. You, stand in the direction of the fire gate. You, stand in the direction of the water gate. You, stand in the direction of the earth gate. The crimson dragon commanded quickly. Soon, the array masters stood in different directions. Next, use the reverse 5 elements technique to break it. I'll use the twin yin-yang formation to help you. With that, the crimson dragon waved his claws and formed a black and white array. In the next moment, the array masters worked together to break it. As time passed, the chi in the entire hidden sky secret realm became tense. This was because they didn't have much time left. Soon, the heavenly netherbird would break the Big Dipper 7 stars formation outside and enter the Pine Palace. Then it would be their doomsday. As for whether they could stop the heavenly netherbird, it would depend on their luck. At the Pine Palace, the array masters from the Palace of Aries and the Shen family led a group of people to quickly study it. However, they didn't make any substantial progress. Up ahead, a group of formation masters surrounded the extremely profound formation and sighed incessantly. Some of them even pulled out their hair. How is it? Still no clue? Duan Tianqing asked. At this moment he was still tall and straight, but his empty sleeve was a bit desolate. This was the arm that was burned off in the battle with Lin Xian. Although he still had an immortal golden pill, he did not dare to use it. Because he still had to face the heavenly netherbird. He had to save his life at the last moment. Therefore, this arm had not grown out yet. However, it was clear that Duan Tianqing was not in the mood to care about his arm. He stared straight ahead and asked about the array formation. The array master from the Palace of Aries shook his head and sighed. It's not that we don't want to break it, but we really don't have a clue. This array is too profound. It's an ancient array. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for us to break it. But don't worry, we've found some clues. We should be able to take action in a few days. Okay, you have to hurry. You must break the formation before the heaven, serene bird comes in. Duan Tianqing said in a deep voice. Don't worry, we won't joke around with our lives. However, whether or not it can be broken will depend on the will of the heavens. The array master from the Palace of Gods of War sighed. Then he walked forward and continued his research. Unlike the gloomy atmosphere at Deep Pine Hall, the Star Pavilion on the other side was in full swing. Under the lead of the Crimson Dragon, a group of array masters began their journey to break the array formation. Soon, they broke the array formation with irresistible force. Haha, great God, you're too strong. You can even break this ancient array formation. That's right, Senior. I have a whole new level of respect for you. I didn't expect your technique to be so exquisite. I didn't expect it to be like this. I feel like I've wasted all these years. The group of array masters was very excited. They were as excited as children. On the other hand, the Crimson Dragon said proudly, Not bad, not bad. You've all done well. Don't worry, I won't mistreat you. With the Crimson Dragon's command, Lin Xian and the rest did not need to do anything. They just quietly cultivated. After all, no one knew what was going on inside the Star Pavilion. It had been 7 days since they started breaking the array formation. They had also broken more than half of the array formation in front of them. After another 3 days, the array formation in front of them was finally broken. Ha! It's finally broken. The Crimson Dragon was like an old monster, constantly shouting. The array masters were also excitedly waving their fists. Godly skill, it's really godly. Heavens, I actually broke the ancient array formation with my own hands. I'm not dreaming, am I? Just this experience alone is enough for me to brag about for the rest of my life. The array masters were too excited. The surrounding people were even more shocked. They did not expect to break the ancient array formation in just 10 days. This was much better than what they had expected. Since it's broken, let's go in. Lin Xian stood up, his eyes shining. Then, the group carefully set off forward. At the same time, there was also good news from the Deep Pine Hall. Everyone, we finally found a way to break it. I believe that as long as we work together, we will definitely be able to break it. One of the array masters roared excitedly. It was not easy. They had thought for 10 days and their hair had turned white. Finally, they came up with a solution. Duan Tianqing and the others were also excited. They said anxiously, "No matter what method we use, we must break the array formation. If you have any requests, just tell us. We will definitely help you." They were too excited because the interior of the Deep Pine Hall not only had the array formation control room, but also countless secret cultivation techniques. Those were the real, peerless treasures. Not only could they enjoy them, but they could also bring them back for their family disciples to learn and strengthen their family. Those idiots still want to break the Star Pavilion. What's in there? How can it be comparable to the Deep Pine Hall? That's right. This is a secret cultivation technique left behind by an ancient expert. If I can learn it, I will definitely be able to defeat that Lin Xian. Yan Feng gritted his teeth. Until now, he had not fully recovered from his injuries. It was all thanks to Lin Xian. Therefore, when he thought of that figure, he was filled with murderous intent. It was ridiculous that they did not know that Lin Xian and the others had already entered the Star Pavilion. If they knew, they would probably be in the mood to cry. On the other side, Lin Xian led the group into the Star Pavilion. It had to be said that the Star Pavilion was indeed magical. After they entered, they found that they did not believe in the pavilion at all. Beneath their feet and the ceiling were all blue. It was as if countless stars were shining in the sky. The surrounding walls were incomparably deep, and there were shooting stars streaking across from time to time. It was as if they had entered a boundless starry sky instead of a tall building. It's amazing. It's so beautiful. It's like a real starry sky. The group of people was amazed. Lin Xian was also surprised. He had never seen such a magical scene before, so he took a few more glances. Chapter 12:16. In the next moment, his heart skipped a beat as if a bolt of lightning had flashed across his mind. These stars don't seem ordinary. Lin Xian looked at the starry sky around him and seemed to have realized something. Both of you try to feel it. Maybe you'll find something. Lin Xian said to Morong Qingqing and Zhao Shui. The two of them believed in Lin Xian's words and started to feel the starry sky around them. You don't say, I'm really enlightened. Morong Qingqing said as she blinked her beautiful eyes. Yes, I also sensed a mysterious force. Zhao Shui nodded. The Crimson Dragon also looked around and said, Kid, this place is very strange. It seems like there's only this space. You mean there's nothing else but this starry sky? Lin Xian asked. Yes, the entire Star Pavilion is filled with this starry sky. There's nothing else. If we want to find the key to the star chain, we'll have to start from this starry sky. The starry sky's mysteries were soon known by everyone. Then, some people were pleasantly surprised. They were happy because this space was very mysterious and had a mysterious force. If they tried to feel it, they might be able to gain something. But they were worried because it would be difficult to find the key to the star chain in such a mysterious place. But no matter what, they had to give it a try. Therefore, many people sat down cross-legged and tried to feel the starry sky around them. Many people even tried to feel the existence of the key to the starry sky. Lin Xian also looked around with his hands behind his back. Looking at the boundless starry sky, his heart was filled with emotions. Gradually, his horizons were broadened, especially the meteors that flashed by. It reminded him of a sword technique, meteor from outer space. Could it be that this starry sky map contained some kind of martial arts technique? Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat because he realized that the meteors were similar to his sword technique. They were so fast and flashed by, brilliant but short. Maybe it's possible. Lin Xian continued to look. Gradually, he found some patterns in the meteors, as if the stars were moving along a certain path. The meteors seemed to have turned into swords, flying through the sky like a rain of swords. Gradually, Lin Xian entered a state of selflessness. Not only him, but Murong Qingqing and Zhao Shui had also entered a mysterious state. Even the Crimson Dragon was grinning from ear to ear. Everyone seemed to have gained something from the starry sky. In the blink of an eye, another 5 days had passed. On this day, Lin Xian suddenly awoke from his comprehension, and clarity returned to his eyes. Then he took a deep breath, and a boundless aura erupted from his body. It was like a sea of stars, incomparably deep. Following Lin Xian's movements, Murong Qingqing and Zhao Shui also opened their eyes. I seem to have sensed a mysterious power of the stars. I wonder what you have sensed. Murong Qingqing asked. Eyes of the stars. Those eyes seem to contain a mysterious power. Zhao Shui's eyes sparkled. On the other hand, Lin Xian saw a sword technique that was as vast as the sea of stars. Ben Huang saw the Big Dipper formation. The Crimson Dragon also joined in. Hearing these different answers, everyone fell silent and fell into deep thought. It seems that the starry sky is more mysterious than we thought. It allows us to see different things. Moreover, these things are very suitable for us. Zhao Shui sighed, as expected of something left behind by a peerless ancient expert. It is indeed mysterious. Murong Qingqing was also shocked. Lin Xian was a little worried because, until now, he had not found any trace of the stellar chain key. Was there really a stellar chain key here? The surrounding people also had the same doubts. Although they had gained many benefits, they still had not found the key. If you want to find the key, you have to leave this starry sky. At this moment, Zero's voice sounded. Leave this starry sky? How do you do that? Lin Xian was puzzled. That will depend on your own comprehension. After saying that, Zero went silent. My own enlightenment? Leave this starry sky? Hearing this, Lin Xian fell into deep thought. This starry sky was in the stellar tower. Naturally, leaving the stellar tower meant leaving the starry sky. However, Zero obviously did not mean that. Moreover, there could not be a key outside the stellar tower. In other words, if they had to leave this starry sky, they had to be in the stellar tower. Only then could they find the key. It seemed that there were other spaces in the stellar tower other than this starry sky. It was just that they had not been discovered yet. After figuring this out, Lin Xian's eyes were as sharp as a sword as he quickly scanned the surroundings. However, he only saw a boundless night sky. Everyone, I don't know if you have a way to leave this starry sky. In the end, Lin Xian told everyone about this so that they could collectively think of a way. In the following time, everyone tried to leave this starry sky. Some people ran madly in one direction, but in the end, they found that they were still under the starry sky. It was as if the starry sky was boundless and was truly a vast universe. No, we can't run out at all. This starry sky can't be an independent space, right? If that's really the case, who knows how big this space is? I just flew for a while. With my speed, I can already fly out of the Pine Palace. However, I still can't fly out of this starry sky. Could this be a real starry sky? Everyone was extremely surprised because they could not think of a way to leave this starry sky. Of course, this was apart from leaving the stellar tower. Even the older generation members of the King clans were frowning. Could it be that this is also an array similar to an illusion array? although we are running in one direction. Under the effect of the array, we are just going around in circles. A formation master proposed such an idea. It's possible. This is definitely an illusion array. Hearing this, many people nodded in agreement because this was the only way that would make sense. However, the Crimson Dragon shook his head. It's not an array because I don't feel the power of an array. This should be an even more mysterious existence. Who was the Crimson Dragon? He was an array master and the person who led them here. Therefore, they believed his words. Everyone believed him without a doubt. If it's not an array, then what is it? Everyone was very puzzled. After that, they stayed here again for 3 days and 3 nights to study carefully. However, they still did not find anything. Not only that, but they also encountered new problems. Oh no, we can't find the way back. Damn it, the door is gone. What? The door is gone? Hearing this, everyone panicked. They quickly searched, but found that the door they came in through was really gone. Chapter 12:17. At this moment, the scenery around them was like a real starry sky. The sky and earth were filled with stars in all directions. It was boundless and boundless. It was as if they were really in the universe. Damn it, are we really trapped here? Someone roared madly. He was unwilling to give up and attacked the void. However, their attack seemed to sink into the sea and did not cause any waves. Next, they tried various methods, but they did not find the way back. It was as if they had really been exiled into the void of the universe. Gradually, they seemed to have lost track of time. No one knew how much time had passed. From what they knew, it seemed like a month had passed. At this time, the heavenly netherbird outside had already entered. However, the stellar pavilion they were in was not attacked at all. There was also no movement. Therefore, they really did not know what was happening outside. Gradually, 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 2 years, everyone was completely lost in the starry sky. In the end, they decided that they could not sit still and wait for death. They had to find a way out. Therefore, they set off in one direction. This time, they would not stop until they got out. However, they seemed to have walked for 3 years and still could not see the end. This made countless people despair. Many people even had white hair overnight. No, if this continues, I'm afraid we will really die here. A few of the elders from the king's families were worried because they found that the spiritual power and vitality in their bodies were quickly disappearing. Some of the older ones even began to wither. Now, everyone had long lost their fighting spirit. There was only endless despair and fear. Lin Xian seemed to have become silent. He had been trying to find a way out. However, he had tried all of them and none of them had succeeded. Fortunately, he had the dragon sword spirit in his body, which allowed him to stay awake at all times. Therefore, he did not lose his fighting spirit like the people around him. However, they could not go on like this. Lin Xian, do you have any ideas? Are we really going to be trapped here until we die? Zhao Shui frowned. On the other side, Morong Qingqing's face was tense, and she did not say a word. Don't worry, things are not as bad as we think. Although it seems like many years have passed, it has not been that long. What did you find? Upon hearing Lin Xian's words, Morong Qingqing asked in confusion. Although the blood and qi of those elders has withered and become incomparably old, have you all noticed that our cultivation hasn't increased by much? It is true that those elders have aged. However, we are all quite talented. Under normal circumstances, we would have reached the 8th or 9th heavenly layer of exalted realm in 30 to 50 years. But now our cultivation levels are still at the same level. Don't you think it's strange? As soon as these words came out, it immediately woke up many people, especially Morong Qingqing and Zhao Shui. Their bodies trembled and their eyes were filled with shock. That's right. Lin Xian was right. With our aptitude, I'm afraid we would have already advanced. But now they didn't advance, which meant that there was a problem with the timing. And if there was a problem with time, it meant that what they had experienced before was just an illusion. It's not all an illusion. At the very least, our mental states have changed, Lin Xian explained. However, he didn't say anything else. Instead, he began to comprehend again because he seemed to have found some clues. In the boundless starry sky, in the vast universe, lost oneself. Could this be an examination of one's will? Lin Xian guessed, because it was very likely. After such a long time, if one's will wasn't strong enough, they would have collapsed long ago. Looking at the surrounding warriors, it was obvious. However, he remained firm and didn't waver, but he still didn't walk out of this starry sky. In other words, this wasn't an examination of one's will. Then what is it? Lin Xian frowned. He kept looking around at the starry sky and fell into endless thoughts. He wanted to ask Zero, but in the end he gave up. He had to rely on himself for this matter. However, it was this process that made his heart skip a beat. Zero was in the mysterious space in his body, and the mysterious space in his body was in the sword-shaped pendant. This in itself was a miracle. A finger-sized sword-shaped pendant actually contained a world. This was even bigger than the space opened up by those ancient powerhouses. It was really amazing. A flower, a world, everything had a spirit. Lin Xian's eyes became brighter and brighter. He seemed to have grasped the key. The vast starry sky was boundless, and the universe was even more boundless. However, it was very likely that it was just a leaf or a flower. It was even possible that the entire universe was contained in a pavilion. Lin Xian also had a magical world in his body. That world also had infinite space. Thinking of this, the corners of his mouth curled up into a confident smile. I am the universe, and the universe is me. This is both real and illusory. After saying that, Lin Xian took a step forward. This step seemed to transcend time and space, as if he had stepped through eternity. In the next moment, light appeared around Lin Xian. The scene was no longer a vast starry sky, but an ordinary pavilion. We're out. Lin Xian was extremely excited. He looked up and found that it was a spacious hall that could accommodate all of them. Everyone else was in the center of the hall. Their bodies were like statues, and everyone had a confused look on their faces. Under their feet, there was a huge star pattern. These people had gone out, but never stepped out of the star pattern. Is this a formation? Lin Xian looked in front of him and was extremely shocked. But very quickly he denied this thought. Because it didn't look like an array, it looked more like a painting. No way, a painting can actually create such a terrifying scene. It's as if it's real. Everyone is lost in it. This method is too terrifying. Lin Xian felt his scalp go numb. What kind of terrifying powerhouse could have such a heaven-defying method? Once he got rid of the distracting thoughts in his mind, the most important thing now was to find the key to the astral chains. He looked around and found a stone platform in front of him. On the stone platform, there was a blue stone that looked like a real star fragment. Could this be the key to the astral chains? Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. He quickly came to the front of the stone platform and grabbed the blue stone in his hand. The stone didn't have any tough edges. It felt warm to the touch. Just as Lin Xian picked up the blue stone, the people in the hall behind him screamed. It's gone. The stars have disappeared. Oh my God, we're saved. Thank the heavens for giving me a chance to be reborn. The group of people was extremely excited. They felt as if they had just survived a disaster. Where's Lin Xian? Murong Qingqing frowned. She didn't find Lin Xian beside her. Chapter 1218. Over there. Zhao Shui stretched out her hand and pointed forward. Then everyone looked forward and found that Lin Xian was indeed there. Could it be that Lin Xian was the first to come out? That means that Lin Xian saved us. Everyone was astonished and shocked in their hearts. This was too unbelievable. Even the elders and seniors did not come out, but Lin Xian walked out of the starry sky. How did he do it? Lin Xian only smiled at this question and pointed at the ground beneath their feet. This is a starry sky pattern. The Morong family elder exclaimed. Could this pattern be an array? Soon, a group of array masters studied it. However, they found that it was not an array that they knew of. Perhaps it was a higher-level array. However, the Crimson Dragon shook his head frantically. There was even a hint of fear in his eyes. It's definitely not an array. It's just a picture. Damn it. Who could have such a heaven-defying method? He was too shocked because he could not do such a thing. What? It's a picture. You're saying that we were in the picture? Everyone was shocked and could not believe it. After hearing this news, everyone was shocked beyond words. A painting, just a painting, had trapped all of them. If not for Lin Xian, they would have been trapped here for the rest of their lives. Who on earth is it? How could he have such terrifying means? The elders of the House of Kings were shocked. Even a king would not have such a method. The group was shocked beyond words. They felt that this place was filled with mystery and strangeness. Right? Did you get the key to the starry sky chain? Murong Qingqing looked at Lin Xian. I got it. Lin Xian opened his palm and revealed the blue stone. Hearing this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, although they had encountered some dangerous situations, they had obtained the key to the starry sky chain. This way, they would have some confidence in facing the heavenly Netherbird. Since they had obtained the key, everyone left the Star Pavilion. The next thing they needed to do was to wait for the heavenly Netherbird. Lin Xian had succeeded, but the situation at Songsong Pavilion was not optimistic. Ever since the last time, those formation masters had been constantly researching and finally found a way, so they hurriedly took action. However, the defensive formation was even more powerful than they'd imagined. Thus, in the past few days, they'd only managed to break through a small part of it. If they wanted to completely break through it, it would likely take them 2 to 3 months. Half a month later, the heavenly Netherbird would break the Big Dipper 7-star formation and enter the Pine Palace. Therefore, it was impossible for them to complete it within half a month. For a moment, everyone's face was incomparably gloomy. This won't do. We don't have enough manpower. If this goes on, we won't be able to break the formation. Why don't we look for the Morong family and the people from Merry Woods? I think we can only break the formation quickly if we work together. Duan Tianqing frowned and said in a low voice, All right, let's discuss it with them. Very quickly, a few martial artists ran towards the Star Pavilion. This small team was led by an array grandmaster and 3 Seventh Heaven venerables. Their speed was very fast, and it didn't take long for them to arrive near the Star Pavilion. However, in the next moment, they were stunned. This was because they'd expected the other party to be the same as them, unable to break the formation. However, it seemed that the situation was a little off. This was because those people were sitting cross-legged on the ground, silently cultivating. However, they didn't have any anxious expressions on their faces. This surprised them greatly. One had to know that they were going crazy over there, but there was no movement from this side. It was really too strange. Who's sneaking around? Get out here. Just as the formation master from the Palace of Ares was observing, the elder from the Morong family suddenly opened his eyes and snorted coldly. Don't be agitated. It's us. The formation master from the Palace of Ares walked out with 3 martial artists. He didn't want to be misunderstood and be attacked by those people. It's you? Many people present recognized the formation master. Among them, the elder from the Morong family frowned. Weren't you guys trying to break the formation in the Pine Pavilion? Why are you here? To be honest, that formation is too difficult to break. Our people are familiar with it, but they can't break it in a short period of time. So, I think we should work together to break the formation. This way, we can definitely break the formation before the Sky Netherbird comes. Otherwise, we'll all die here. I knew you couldn't break it, but what does that have to do with me? The formation master from the Morong family said coldly, You guys were the ones who insisted on splitting up. Now you want to join up? Do you? think the palace of Ares can control everyone. Not only the Morong family, but even the elder from the Merry Woods was unhappy. We're all from the House of Kings. Why should the palace of Ares decide whether to join up or split up? Why should we listen to you? I know you're unhappy, but now is not the time to be loyal. If we can't break the formation, none of us can escape. You think too much. We don't need you to care about our business. The elder from the Morong family coldly refused. The others also sneered, as if they didn't care about the threat that was about to come. You guys are a bunch of idiots. Don't you know what kind of danger you're in? Seeing that those people didn't move, the formation master from the palace of Ares was furious. Ha! Since you guys don't want to cooperate, then don't blame us. When we break the formation, don't come begging us. After saying that, he snorted and left with a gloomy face. Seeing the other party leave, the warriors from the Morong family and the Merry Woods sneered. They didn't care about the other party's threat. After all, they had already broken the formation and obtained the stellar key. When the time comes, it's not certain who will be begging who. However, the elders were worried. Lin Gongzi, do we really not want to cooperate with them? Hearing that, Lin Xian shook his head. It's better if we don't open the Pine Pavilion. Otherwise, if we destroy the formation control room, we'll be in trouble. When the time comes, the heavenly Netherbird will come in early. In such a short time, we won't be able to control the stellar beast. Then we'll really have no way to survive. Hearing that, the other elders nodded. Indeed, the formation was very important. They couldn't destroy it. If that's the case, then we won't go help. We'll stay here and watch. But I hope that the stellar key can really restrain the heavenly Netherbird. Don't worry, there's still some time. I'll try my best to control the stellar key. Lin Xian said. Chapter 1219. Also, we won't fight the heaven serene bird head-on. We just need to hold it back. After all, it won't be long before we're transported out. As long as we can hold on for a while, we can leave safely. The day they left was around the same time as the heaven serene bird's arrival, which was 3 to 5 days later. As long as they could hold on for a few days, they would be transported out. On the other side, the array master from the Palace of Gods of War angrily returned to the Tsongsong Pavilion. He told them what had happened, which immediately caused those people to be dissatisfied. What? You're saying that the Morong family didn't cooperate? Damn it, those idiots. They don't want to live anymore. We don't need them. We'll break it ourselves. As long as we break the array, they'll definitely kneel down and beg us. The Palace of Gods of War's expression was ferocious. Then they gathered everyone to break the array. They all began to act. They didn't dare to hold back anymore. Time quickly passed. In the blink of an eye, the day of the heaven serene bird's arrival arrived. The Tsongsong Pavilion had been busy for half a month, but they still couldn't break the array. Now they were like frosted eggplants. Each of them sat on the ground with a face of despair. The stellar pagoda. Lin Xian opened his eyes and adjusted himself to his peak state. He knew that they would soon have to face the heaven serene bird. This was a matter of life and death. If they could hold on, then they could leave safely. Otherwise, they would all die here. Fortunately, they weren't completely unprepared. At least he still had the stellar key in his hand, and after half a month of research, he was already able to control it. Not only that, he also had the Tsongsong sword. This was something that the heaven serene bird was wary of. Thinking about it, these two together could restrain the heaven serene bird. If it really didn't work, he could still control the 10,000 bee sting. This was his biggest trump card. After all, the 10,000 bee sting was a complete Earth-class artifact. It also had a special suppressive effect on monsters. Although he couldn't display the full power of the 10,000 bee sting with his current strength, he could still use it to a certain extent. After all, Lin Xian's goal wasn't just to restrain the heavenly Netherbird. He also wanted its essence, blood, and black flames. The sky was clear and cloudless. However, it suddenly became gloomy. Countless gusts of wind blew, emitting demonic sounds. Suddenly, everyone felt an oppressive aura. It was as if a peerless demon had come into being. That aura made them despair. Bang, bang, bang. After that, a deep voice rang out. Then, the entire Pine Palace shook violently as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting apart. Immediately after, a low voice sounded in everyone's ears. "Lowly worms, have you completed your mission?" Hearing this voice, many of the martial artists in Pine Pavilion began to tremble. This was because they had not completed their mission. On the Star Pavilion side, Lin Xian and the others held their breaths. They had obtained the Star Key, but it didn't mean that they would obediently hand it over to the Heavenly Netherbird. However, if they didn't hand it over to the Heavenly Netherbird, it would definitely be angered. Therefore, everyone was extremely nervous. Bang! The mountain in front of them crumbled and the Big Dipper array finally dimmed. A huge crack had been torn open by the Heavenly Netherbird. Then, the Heavenly Netherbird's huge body crashed into the Big Dipper array and appeared in front of everyone. Roar! A terrifying roar echoed throughout the 9 heavens and 10 earths. It was as if the entire secret territory was going to be turned upside down. Countless black flames were like black waves that slammed in all directions. Accompanying it was a terrifyingly hot aura. Just the aura from the Heavenly Netherbird was enough to make them unable to breathe. Someone actually obtained the Star Key. The Heavenly Netherbird revealed a surprised expression. Ha 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 ha, good, good, good. You didn't disappoint me. A loud and clear voice resounded throughout the entire Pine Palace. What? They obtained the Star Key. How is that possible? Did they break the ancient array? Hearing the Heavenly Netherbird's words, the people from the Palace of Gods of War were stunned. Originally, they thought that the Morong family was the same as them and hadn't broken the array. That was why they had given up and refused to cooperate with them. But now, it seemed that they were completely wrong. The other party wasn't giving up, they were clearly confident. Because they had already broken the array, they didn't need to cooperate with them. They had already completed the task that the Heavenly Netherbird had given them. Now, they were the ones in danger. No, we can't just sit here and wait. Let's go and meet up with those people. The group of people were terrified. They knew that the Star Key was their last hope. In the next moment, all the cultivators from the Tsongsong Pavilion ran with all their might towards the Star Pavilion. The Heavenly Netherbird didn't care about these cultivators. He was staring at the people from the Star Pavilion, but he was actually staring at Lin Xian. This was because he could feel that the key to the star chain was in Lin Xian's hands. So it's you. No wonder I didn't know in advance. You're a fish that slipped through the net. The Heavenly Netherbird was indeed surprised. This was because he had planted the black flame mark in everyone's body. As long as someone had the Star Key, he would be able to sense it. However, there were 2 exceptions. They were Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. They didn't have the black flame mark on them. So even if Lin Xian had the Star Key, the Heavenly Netherbird wouldn't know. Kid, I have to say that you've surprised me. First, you were able to enter the Big Dipper array. Now, you've obtained the Star Chain's key. Your strength has exceeded my expectations. Now, give me the Star Key, and I can spare your life. The Heavenly Netherbird's loud voice rang out. However, Lin Xian shook his head. You want the key? Sure, but you have to let them go first. Lin Xian pointed at the surrounding cultivators. Suddenly, the surrounding cultivators were shocked. They looked at Lin Xian with eyes full of gratitude. This was because they didn't expect that Lin Xian would let them go first. This was to protect them. Humph, lowly worm. You have no right to negotiate with me. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the Heavenly Netherbird was displeased. Who was he? He was an ancient demon beast. Even a king couldn't do anything to him. But now, a lowly worm dared to negotiate with him. This was simply courting death. Do you believe that if you provoke me, I can kill all of you with one palm? The Heavenly Netherbird's voice was cold as he stared at Lin Xian. I'll give you one last chance. Obediently give me the Star Key. Otherwise, all of you will die." Hearing the heavenly Netherbird's words, the surrounding cultivators' hearts beat wildly. They were extremely nervous. Chapter 12:20. Lin Xian's expression turned serious when he heard about the heavenly Netherbird's danger. However, at this moment, an angry shout came from behind. "Lin Xian, hurry up and give the stellar key to the heavenly Netherbird." "That's right. What are you hesitating for? Do you want to get us killed? Damn brat! Hurry up and hand over the stellar key. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite." The martial artists from the Palace of Ares and the Palace of Divine Birds all shouted. At this moment of life and death, they couldn't care less. Not to mention that Lin Xian was an 8th level honored warrior. Even if Lin Xian was a king, they still had to make him hand over the stellar key. Otherwise, no one could resist the heavenly Netherbird's anger. Hearing these words, the martial artists from the Morong family and the Merry Forest were all enraged. The people from the Palace of Ares were too despicable. They didn't even get the stellar key. What right did they have to scold Lin Xian? You didn't get it. What right do you have to criticize us? That's right. Lin Xian led us to get the stellar key. What we do is up to Lin Xian. You have no right to question us. Lin Xian's face was also gloomy. He stared at the people from the Palace of Ares and sneered. "I wanted to let you go, but you're so despicable. You dare to threaten me at this moment. It seems that I was too soft before." Hearing Lin Xian's words, the people from the Palace of Ares felt their hearts beat wildly. They had a bad feeling in their hearts. "You, what do you want to do? Brat, I'm warning you. Don't mess around. If you anger us, you won't have a good ending. A bunch of idiots. You still dare to threaten me at this moment. It seems that you don't know how to write the word death." Lin Xian looked at them and smiled coldly. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the martial artists from the Palace of Ares felt their hair stand on end. They had a bad feeling, as if something was about to happen. Sure enough, in the next moment, Lin Xian pointed at the Morong family again and said in a deep voice, "Let these people go, and I can consider giving you the stellar key. As for those people, you can do whatever you want with them." He glanced at the people from the Palace of Gods of War. Lin Xian's words caused the expressions of those from the Palace of Gods of War to change drastically. It was as if they had fallen into a bottomless abyss. If the Sky Serene Bird really agreed to Lin Xian's request, then they would be in deep trouble. For a moment, everyone's faces were pale and filled with despair. However, they placed their hopes on the heavenly Netherbird because, in their eyes, it was a peerless ancient beast. How could it compromise? Sure enough, the heavenly Netherbird coldly snorted. Its eyes were filled with cold killing intent. "Ignorant human, you dare to provoke me? I will let you know the consequences of provoking me." He swung his huge black claw at Lin Xian. Instantly, the entire space cracked. Just as the huge claw was about to hit Lin Xian still didn't dodge. He flipped his palm and took out a blue stone. Then he struck a technique into it. Instantly, the blue stone shone brightly and formed a mystical energy. In the next moment, the stellar chains on the Sky Serene Bird's body rattled as they quickly coiled around Yi Shiwen like dragons. The sound of metal colliding rang out continuously, followed by the Sky Serene Bird's cry of surprise. "Damn it, you can actually control the stellar key. How is this possible?" The Sky Serene Bird was extremely shocked. Its huge black claw stopped in midair and didn't strike down. It was simply too shocked. It didn't expect that a puny human who hadn't even reached the king realm could control the stellar key. This was simply too inconceivable. Lin Xian didn't reply. He held the stellar key and said again, "Now, I have the right to negotiate with you." The Sky Serene Bird remained silent as if it was deep in thought. However, the atmosphere in the entire space was becoming more and more tense. Murong Qingqing and the others were extremely nervous. The scene from before had almost scared them to death. It was simply too dangerous. If Lin Xian hadn't controlled the Sky Serene Bird, then it would have been impossible for him to survive that attack. Fortunately, he had made the right bet. However, he didn't know if the Sky Serene Bird would agree to his conditions. Time seemed to have stopped. Although it was very short, everyone felt as if thousands of years had passed. Finally, the Sky Serene Bird moved. It said in a deep voice, "All right, I agree to your conditions. You can all leave now." These words caused the cultivators from the Morong family and the Merry Forest to heave a sigh of relief. It was too exciting. They had truly walked through the gates of hell. Fortunately, they were saved in the end. Lin Xian, what about you? Morong Qingqing was extremely worried. After all, Lin Xian couldn't leave at all. However, if he faced the Sky Serene Bird alone, the consequences would be unimaginable. Qingqing, trust me. I can handle it. Lin Xian smiled at Morong Qingqing. Then he turned to Zhao Shui and said, "You should also leave with them." "No, I want to stay and help you." Zhao Shui shook her head. "No, you have to leave. There's no use for you to stay here. The Sky Serene Bird isn't something that we can fight against." Zhao Shui wanted to say something, but she was interrupted by Lin Xian. "Don't worry, I'm confident." "All right, then you have to come back alive." Zhao Shui nodded. "Lin Xian, you have to be careful." Morong Qingqing was also reluctant to leave. However, she knew that this was a serious matter. Therefore, she didn't hesitate. Then, she led everyone and quickly left the Pine Palace. On the other side, the people from the Palace of Aries were shocked when they saw Morong Qingqing and the others leave. They didn't expect the Sky Serene Bird to actually compromise. In the next moment, the hope of escaping surged in their hearts. They also wanted to leave this place. However, a shocking sword qi, like a long river, forcibly stopped them. "Damn it, it's Lin Xian's brat. How dare he block our path? He must be tired of living." The group of people roared in anger. This was the best time to leave. If they didn't leave now, they wouldn't be able to. At that time, they wouldn't be able to fight against the Sky Serene Bird. There would only be one outcome waiting for them. Therefore, how could they not be angry? "Did I say you could leave?" Lin Xian looked at them and sneered. "Brat, you're courting death." Duan Tianqing was furious. His expression was ferocious. "If we don't leave, even if you manage to escape, do you think the Palace of Aries will let you go?" "Let me go." Lin Xian snorted. "Do you think you'll let me go if you leave? I won't let you go for nothing." "What do you want?" Duan Tianqing asked anxiously. They didn't have much time left. "It's simple. Pay for your life. Hand over everything you obtained in the Pine Palace, and I'll let you leave. Otherwise, you can stay here and face it with me." Chapter 1221. What? You can have them all. "Brat, you've gone too far. Whether we leave or not is up to the heavenly Netherbird to decide. It has nothing to do with you. Don't even think about getting any benefits from us." Duan Tianqing's voice was ferocious. If the heavenly Netherbird wasn't here, he would have led his men to fight Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian shook his head. He looked at the heavenly Netherbird and asked, "I can decide whether these people stay or leave, right?" "You can." The heavenly Netherbird's voice was cold. To it, these humans were no different from insects. Therefore, it didn't care whether they lived or died. The only thing it cared about was the stellar key. The heavenly Netherbirds' words made Duan Tianqing and the others' faces turn ugly. Their eyes were filled with despair. This was because they knew that these words were equivalent to a death sentence. If they couldn't satisfy Lin Xian, they would have to stay here forever. "I'll give you 3 breaths of time to consider. You can choose whether you want the stellar key or the treasures." Duan Tianqing and the others' faces were ashen. They didn't dare to stay here because the heavenly Netherbird was too terrifying. They couldn't fight against it. However, asking them to hand over all their treasures was worse than killing them. One had to know that those treasures were true treasures. They had spent a lot of effort to collect them. Now, they had to hand it all over to someone else. This made them unwilling. Elder Duan, do you want us to kill this brat together? Yen Feng gritted his teeth. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. However, Duan Tianqing shook his head. Give it to him. He didn't dare to make a move in front of the heavenly netherbird. If he angered it, it could kill them all with one slap. Elder Duan. Countless people roared when they heard Duan Tianqing's words. Living is more important than anything else. Once we die, we'll have nothing left. Everyone trembled as fear filled their eyes. Yes, they were all members of the royal family. They were all geniuses. They still had a lot of time to enjoy. They didn't want to die. In the end, these people gritted their teeth and threw all their storage rings to Lin Xian. With a wave of his hand, Lin Xian collected all the storage rings and put them into the white bone ring. Afterward, he extended his soul power and quickly scanned everyone. He was very satisfied with the result. No one dared to hide anything in front of him. Very well, you can scram now. Lin Xian withdrew his soul power and waved his hand impatiently. Brat, you will pay for what you did today. Duan Tianqing gnashed his teeth as he left, because this time it could be said that they had suffered great losses. They had lost all the treasures they had collected. However, Lin Xian merely shrugged and didn't care at all. These people were simply no match for him, so he didn't care whether they lived or died. Moreover, she had obtained countless treasures in exchange for his life. This was undoubtedly a huge gain for her. This was because these heavenly treasures could increase his cultivation and strength once again. Moreover, he could also use them to increase the cultivation of his friends. It could be said that this deal was a win-win situation. After Duan Tianqing and the others left, only the heavenly netherbird and Lin Xian were left. Lin Xian didn't rush to speak. Instead, he thought to himself. When he estimated that Murong Qingqing and the others had almost completely left, he looked at the heavenly netherbird. All right, brat, I've already fulfilled your conditions. Hurry up and give me the stellar key. The heavenly netherbird said coldly. It had already decided that once Lin Xian handed over the key, it would kill him with one palm, because no one had ever been able to negotiate with it. However, Lin Xian's lips curled up slightly. No rush. You've agreed to the first condition, but we'll talk about the second and third conditions. What? You dare to tease me? Hearing this, the heavenly netherbird was stunned. Then it became abnormally angry. This damned human worm dared to tease it. He really didn't know his limits. Damned worm, my patience is limited. I'll give you one last chance. Hand it over, or I'll make sure you die without a burial place. As it spoke, black flames filled the sky and dyed the entire void black. It was obvious that the heavenly netherbird was really angry. If Lin Xian's performance didn't satisfy it, it would probably become even angrier. However, Lin Xian was unmoved. He slowly said, I have two conditions. First, give me a drop of your essence blood. Second, I want a portion of your origin flame. Lin Xian stated his conditions. However, the heavenly netherbird was enraged. Brat, you're courting death. It finally couldn't take it anymore. A puny human dared to raise conditions with it time and time again. He even dared to ask for its essence, blood, and origin flame. He was simply courting death. In the next moment, the heavenly netherbird waved its giant claw and viciously slammed it towards Lin Xian. The giant black claw tore through the void and expanded infinitely. It was like an ancient demonic mountain that pressed downwards. Below him, Lin Xian turned his body and quickly executed his movement skill. His speed reached the limit, and he was like a shocking rainbow as he retreated rapidly. Boom! The heavenly netherbbird's giant claw viciously slammed into the ground, causing the entire pine palace to shake violently. A terrifying crater was formed in an instant. This was too terrifying. One had to know that Lin Xian's previous battle couldn't even damage the structure of the Pine Palace. However, the heavenly Netherbird's casual attack had caused the entire ground to collapse. One could only imagine how terrifying its strength was. However, it was fortunate that Lin Xian had an Earth-class movement technique and a pair of storm wings that helped him increase his speed. Therefore, the attack just now didn't hurt him at all. I don't think you need to be so agitated. The two things I want can't hurt you at all. As long as you give them to me, I'll give you the stellar key. Otherwise, those stellar chains will accompany you forever. Despicable human, die. The heavenly Netherbird was furious. It would never agree to Lin Xian's conditions. In the next moment, it roared and the black flames on its body shot up into the sky. Endless black flames rushed towards Lin Xian. The black flames churned, and huge black palms appeared one after another, grabbing forward. In an instant, the entire space was torn apart. Lin Xian didn't dare to take it head-on. He quickly used the Red Lotus armor to form the strongest defense. At the same time, he used the illusory demon steps to increase his speed to the extreme. Since Ming 1 isn't working, then don't blame me. Lin Xian snorted and then activated the stellar key in his hand. Suddenly, the stellar chains on the heavenly Netherbird's body clattered and tightened again. It was as if they were going to sink into the heavenly Netherbird's body. Ah, damned human, how dare you hurt me? The heavenly Netherbird was furious. It didn't think that a puny human would dare to attack it. It couldn't tolerate it. With a roar, the terrifying sound wave was like a demonic sound that caused the entire space to explode. The terrifying wave hit Lin Xian and sent him flying. Chapter 1222. Ruzalong. Lin Xian let out a furious roar before he came to a stop with much difficulty. Don't worry, it's all set up. The Crimson Dragon's voice rang out as it waved its claws. Immediately, a huge array appeared before the heavenly Netherbird and enveloped him. Humph, you want to stop me with just a broken array? How ignorant! I'll let you know the consequences of angering me. The heavenly Netherbird's voice was cold as it carried a domineering aura. Then he crashed into the ground in front of him. Suddenly, the light screen formed by the array shattered like glass. Humph, I've said it before. Your methods are nothing in front of me. Since you dare to provoke me, I'll make you wish you were dead. The heavenly Netherbird looked at Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon with a cruel smile. But in the next moment his smile disappeared, because the broken array had reformed and formed a new light screen that enveloped him. Humph, stupid bird, it's not that easy to break through Bunhuang's array. The Crimson Dragon snorted. If Bunhuang's dragon essence had not disappeared, you wouldn't be so arrogant. He was too depressed. Originally, he was not weaker than the heavenly Netherbird, but now that he had lost his dragon essence, he could not use much of his strength. He could only rely on the array to delay his opponent's attack. Brat, it's up to you. Seeing that the array had stopped the heavenly Netherbird, Lin Xian's eyes shone brightly. In the next moment, he was like a sword god as a huge sword aura surged from his body. Gale lightning sword, fourth sword, heaven, and earth collapse. Lin Xian used his strongest attack as soon as he attacked. 4 giant swords formed in the sky. Each of them was extremely terrifying and exuded an aura that could destroy the heavens and earth. Then, under Lin Xian's control, the 4 giant swords fell and slashed at the heavenly Netherbird. Boom! Boom! Thunder rumbled as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. The entire void was collapsing rapidly. The power of these 4 swords was simply too terrifying. Even an 8th level Venerate would probably be sliced in half in an instant. Damnworm, you've really angered me. However, in the next moment, the heavenly Netherbird's angry voice was heard. Then, a pitch-black figure with flames rose from the ground. In the next moment, the array's light screen shattered and the 4 giant swords were sent flying. The heavenly Netherbird was furious. Its body was covered in black flames. The terrifying attack just now did not break through its defense at all. However, Lin Xian's actions had enraged it. "Brat, go to hell!" The heavenly netherbird raised its claw, and countless black flames gathered to form a huge black fireball the size of a small mountain. Whoosh! In the next moment, the giant heavenly netherbird. This attack was too terrifying, and even Exalt realm experts would probably be unable to resist it at all. Bloodthirsty tide est, S-is-he-t-t-t-s-he. Was he? Lin to increase to, S to Tess was to. At the same time, he used the Tempest Wings and illusory demon steps. His speed reached its limit as he quickly moved out. Lin Xian used his extreme movement technique and finally moved out at the last moment. However, although he managed to dodge the heavenly netherbird, he didn't manage to dodge the energy's aftermath. The giant heavenly netherbird smashed into the ground, creating a bottomless pit. Then, countless waves of flames spread out. The impact was very wide. More than half of the Pine region was affected. Therefore, no matter how fast Lin Xian was, he couldn't dodge it. He was swept by the wave-like black flames and felt as if he was struck by lightning. He was sent flying. The blood in his body churned and many of his bones were broken. It was too terrifying. That was only the aftermath of the energy. Lin Xian was wearing the Red Lotus armor, but he was still severely injured. The heavenly netherbird was indeed an ancient demonic beast. Even a martial honorable realm cultivator wouldn't be able to withstand such an attack. Lin Xian controlled the injuries in his body and quickly retreated to avoid being affected again. Moreover, his bones, blood were recovering quickly. From this, one could see the difference between Lin Xian and other martial honorables. One had to know that Lin Xian usually consumed a lot of heaven and earth treasures. The medicinal effects were left in his body and hadn't been refined. Now that he was injured, the remaining medicinal effects were quickly breaking down and repairing his body. If it were anyone else, they probably wouldn't be able to move after this attack. The medicinal effects left in his body, coupled with the art of longevity's amazing recovery ability. Therefore, in the next moment, Lin Xian had recovered 70 to 80%. Seeing that Lin Xian was fine, the heavenly netherbird was surprised. It knew that even a martial, honorable realm cultivator wouldn't be able to withstand the energy of the heavenly netherbird. However, Lin Xian was still alive. What a strange kid! The heavenly netherbird's face darkened as it waved its claws. Suddenly, the remaining black flames in the sky turned into countless black fire dragons and rushed toward Lin Xian. His surroundings were sealed once again. This time, Lin Xian would not be able to escape this calamity. The Crimson Dragon was also anxious. It waved its claws and created a few formations to block some of the fire dragons. However, its strength was limited and it couldn't trap all of the fire dragons. Therefore, although it was relieved, Lin Xian was still in danger. Kid, let's see how you escape this time. The heavenly netherbird revealed a cruel smile. Even if he wasn't hit by the fire dragons, as long as he was hit by the energy waves, he wouldn't be able to survive, unless he was a martial king. However, Lin Xian clearly wasn't a martial king. Therefore, the heavenly netherbird thought that he was dead for sure this time. Looking at the black fire dragons rushing toward him from all directions, Lin Xian's face turned ugly. He didn't expect the heavenly netherbird to be so powerful. He was heavily injured as soon as they started fighting. It seemed that he could only use his trump card now. With a flip of his hand, the 10,000 beast ding appeared in his hand. Then he held the 10,000 beast ding and blasted it forward. The 10,000 beast ding had absorbed a lot of terrifying flames in the cave. Now, under Lin Xian's control, the flames surged out to resist the black fire dragons. The flames burned the sky and covered the entire sky in a sea of fire. The terrifying temperature caused the entire void to crackle and crumble. In the sky, the boundless sea of refined swords collided with the black flaming dragon, causing crackling sounds to resound. Every single explosion was capable of annihilating an Exalt realm cultivator. Seeing a small human reptile resist the black fire dragons, the heavenly Netherbird was surprised. Then it looked at the sky and revealed a surprised expression. The aura of these flames, could it be? It seemed to have thought of something as its gaze became uncertain. After seeing the black fire dragons disappear, the heavenly Netherbird confirmed that the flames were as it had guessed. "Kid, you've entered old Devil Song Song's weapon refining cave." The heavenly Netherbird's voice contained a trace of savagery. Chapter 1223. The Sea of Flames was extremely terrifying. Even the heavenly Netherbird's black fire dragon was burned. One could only imagine how terrifying it was. This scene caused the heavenly Netherbird's expression to change. It asked in a deep voice, "Brat, did you enter the weapon refining cave before?" To be honest, the heavenly Netherbird wasn't too afraid of these flames. After all, it had its ways to deal with them. However, what made it afraid was that the other party was able to subdue these flames. A human brat with only the cultivation of the 7th heavenly layer was able to subdue such terrifying flames. It couldn't help but be shocked. One had to know that the weapon refining cave had a peerless divine weapon that even it was afraid of. If the other party obtained that peerless divine weapon, then the threat to it would increase greatly. However, Lin Xian sneered, "I know what you're afraid of. No need to guess, that sword is in my hands. So, as long as you obediently hand over the essence, blood, and the black flame, I can let you go." From the current situation, Lin Xian was certain that the heavenly Netherbird was afraid of the divine sword in his hands. "Brat, you're too ignorant." The heavenly Netherbird sneered. "If it was old Devil Song Song who had that divine sword back then I might be very afraid. But now, with your cultivation, you can't pose any threat to me. Moreover, the divine sword is already broken. I'm very sure of this. So now, that broken sword is of no threat to me." Although the heavenly Netherbird's words were filled with disdain, its movements were not slow. It once again launched a fierce attack at Lin Xian. This time, Lin Xian did not use his own strength to resist because the gap between them was too great. The heavenly Netherbird was a monster that even kings had to retreat from. He could not fight against it at all. Therefore, he used the Sea of Flames to resist the heavenly Netherbird. Although he was at a disadvantage, his life was not in danger for the time being. "Haha, you're afraid. Although you say you don't care, you care a lot in your heart. Otherwise, you wouldn't have launched such an attack." Lin Xian sneered. He now understood that the divine sword in his hands was absolutely terrifying. Even if it was broken, it was still able to make the heavenly Netherbird wary. In the distant past, the heavenly Netherbird must have suffered at the hands of this peerless divine sword. After understanding this, Lin Xian no longer hesitated. He lightly tapped the 10,000 beast ding with his palm, which immediately produced a crisp sound. Clang! The 10,000 beast ding trembled. Then, a green long sword appeared from the cauldron. Ashen Pine Sword. The heavenly Netherbird's pupils shrank when she saw the jade sword. Lin Xian's guess was correct. He had indeed suffered a loss at the hands of this peerless divine sword, and it was a great loss. Back then he had fought old Taoist Song Song to a standstill. Originally, with old Taoist Song Song's strength, they could only fight to a draw. However, it was precisely because he possessed the Ashen Pine sword that Tianyu was defeated. It could be said that the bird hated and feared the Song Pine sword at the same time. Now that he saw this sword again, he was naturally shocked. However, when he saw the sword clearly, he started laughing wildly. "Ha ha ha, I told you. The Song Pine sword is already broken. It can't unleash the power of the past." Indeed, half of the Song Pine sword was broken. The remaining half of the sword was covered in cracks, as if it would shatter at any moment. More importantly, old Taoist Song Song was no longer here. There was only a broken sword and a seventh sky supremacy brat. They could not unleash the power of this peerless divine weapon. Therefore, the heavenly Netherbird was not worried at all. Brat, no wonder you were so arrogant before. You even dared to talk about conditions with me. I guess this Songpine sword is your greatest trump card. Unfortunately, your trump card is useless against me. Now, I'm going to send you on your way. Don't worry, I won't kill you immediately. I'll torture you slowly so that you'll beg for death. This is what you get for messing with me. The heavenly Netherbird let out a sinister laugh. As an ancient demonic beast, he revealed his cruel nature. With that, he stretched out a finger and viciously pressed it down. From the looks of it, he wanted to crush Lin Xian like an ant. Lin Xian took a deep breath. His expression was extremely serious. In the next moment, he crazily activated the great dragon, Sword Soul, in his body. Suddenly, countless rays of sword qi rushed out like giant dragons and wrapped around his arm. Lin Xian stretched out his hand and grasped the Songpine sword. Buzz! The broken Songpine sword seemed to come alive. It released a dazzling light that dyed the entire space green. A terrifying sword aura erupted from the Songpine sword and swept through the world. At this moment, the Songpine sword came alive. What, this is impossible. The smile on the heavenly Netherbird's face disappeared. His outstretched finger also stopped in midair. Shocking, it was too shocking. He did not expect the Songpine sword to be able to fully recover. This was completely out of his expectations. One had to know that the Songpine sword was an earth-rank treasure. This treasure was very powerful, but it also required a lot of energy. From what he knew, only kings and above could use earth-rank treasures. Therefore, he was not worried at all. Lin Xian was only a 7th-rank supremacy and could not use the Songpine sword. But now he had done it. Not only did he do it, but he also completely recovered the Songpine sword. Damn it! How is this possible? What method did he use? A trace of panic appeared in the heavenly Netherbird's eyes. After all, the Songpine sword had traumatized him too much. It's a bluff. It must be a bluff. How can a puny 7th-rank supremacy completely recover the Songpine sword? He must have used an illusion. Go to hell, brat! The heavenly Netherbird roared. Its huge claws were covered in endless black flames. Then it fiercely slammed down. A monster's physique was already strong. In addition, the heavenly Netherbird had terrifying black flames. Therefore, he did not need to use any spells. He only needed to use his own strength to cause endless destruction. Looking at the huge black claw descending from the sky, Lin Xian roared. Then he waved his arm and quickly slashed out with the Songpine sword in his hand. In the next moment, a green sword aura flashed. The entire sky seemed to be dyed green. A green sword light was extremely sharp and quickly slashed forward. This sword qi was too terrifying. Even Lin Xian's heart palpitated in fear. This was because he had never seen such a sharp sword aura. He was afraid that only a king could use such an attack. The green sword aura fiercely slashed at the huge black claw. Then, the heavenly Netherbird let out a miserable cry. The endless black flames were cut open by the green sword aura. Even the huge black claw had a huge wound. One could even faintly see the white bones. Chapter 1224. An endless amount of blood spurted out, each drop capable of piercing through space. The heavenly Netherbird was indeed an ancient demon beast. The blood in its body was simply too powerful. The space could not withstand it at all. Seeing this scene, the dark red divine dragon was overjoyed. He quickly cast a formation and collected all the blood that dripped down. This blood was not the heavenly Netherbird's essence blood. It was just ordinary blood. However, it contained a shocking amount of energy. If he could collect enough blood, the Crimson Dragon could refine it into essence blood. Therefore, he did not waste any of the blood. Instead, he collected as much as he could. "Damned reptile, you think you can get my blood?" Seeing this, the heavenly Netherbird was enraged. He did not think that a snake would dare to covet his blood. He was courting death. In the next moment, black flames appeared on his palm and quickly stopped the bleeding. Then he looked at an Hong dragon god and snorted, "Despicable worm, die." An endless amount of Demon King aura surged towards the crimson dragon. In the heavenly Netherbird's eyes, the other party was just a small snake that could not withstand his aura. In the next moment, the other party would be turned into a bloody mist by the invisible aura. But soon he was stunned, because the crimson dragon was completely fine. His aura was like a stone sinking into the sea. What? How is this possible? The heavenly Netherbird was shocked. He realized that the two people in front of him were too strange. First, it was a mysterious brat who could control the Tsang Song sword. Now, it was a snake that was not afraid of his aura. Impossible. How is this possible? Demon beasts have a strict hierarchy. With my strength, just my aura alone is enough to crush him. But why is he fine? Could it be that I've been asleep for too long and the world has changed? The heavenly Netherbird was extremely angry. As a demon beast on the ancient heaven ranking, he was infamous in the ancient times. Even a king would have to lower his head in front of him. But now he had just broken out of his seal and was already at a disadvantage at the hands of two insects. He could not accept this. The crimson dragon sneered, "Stupid bird, you want to use your aura on Ben Huang? You're too inexperienced." Then he raised his head and roared at the heavenly Netherbird. Immediately, a low growl of a dragon arose, carrying with it an endless amount of dragon energy. It swept across all 9 levels of heaven and all 10 levels of hell. In the next moment, the heavenly Netherbird's body began to tremble. Impossible! How is this possible? The heavenly Netherbird was shocked. He didn't think that a snake could make him tremble. This was not a suppression of strength, but a suppression that came from the depths of his bloodline. This kind of suppression almost drove the heavenly Netherbird crazy. Dragon Clan, this is the pressure of the Dragon Clan. The heavenly Netherbird was shocked as it stared at the crimson dragon. "You're not a snake, you're a dragon." He was too shocked. Who would have thought that the thing he had always thought of as a snake was actually a dragon? Furthermore, judging from the other party's bloodline power, it seemed to be extremely pure. But soon he began to laugh wildly. "Ha ha ha ha, the heavens are really helping me. I was trapped for thousands of years, and my strength was greatly reduced. I was just thinking about how to recover my strength. Who would have thought that I would encounter the dragon race right after I came out? And a weak one at that. Little thing, wait until I eat you. Not only will I recover my strength, but my bloodline will also become more refined. When that time comes, I might even become another great Xia dragonfinch." The heavenly Netherbird was too excited. He was the descendant of the great Xia dragonfinch, but the bloodline in his body was very thin. If he could obtain the bloodline of the Dragon Clan, he might be able to become the great Xia dragonfinch again and reach the ancestral realm. Once he became the great Xia dragonfinch, he would be the true overlord of the world. No one would be able to stop him. Thinking of this, his eyes shone brightly. His terrifying claws clawed downwards, determined to catch the crimson dragon. The crimson dragon was as agile as lightning, quickly dodging. Big, stupid bird. Although Bunhuang's strength is not as great as before, he's still not someone you can catch. The crimson dragon snorted. Although his strength was greatly reduced, he still had countless secret techniques that allowed him to escape successfully. On the other side, Lin Xian slowly waved the ashen pine sword, preparing to attack again. This was because he realized that as long as he injured the heavenly Netherbird and allowed the crimson dragon to collect enough blood, it would be able to condense essence blood. That way, he would have accomplished half of his goal. Moreover, the crimson dragon's actions had given him inspiration. Since blood could condense essence blood, then the countless black flames could naturally condense into true origin flames. Therefore, Lin Xian held the ashen pine sword while controlling the 10,000 beast sting to absorb the black flames on the heavenly Netherbird's body. "You're courting death." The heavenly Netherbird was enraged. He didn't think that not only did he fail to catch the Crimson Dragon, but that brat also dared to have designs on his flames. This made him extremely furious. Therefore, he gave up on catching the Crimson Dragon and decided to kill Lin Xian first. After all, the ashen pine sword in his opponent's hand was still a great threat to him. Seeing the heavenly Netherbird's gaze shift again, Lin Xian didn't hesitate and quickly slashed with the ashen pine sword. Compared to the previous slash, he only used the power of the great dragon sword spirit and the sharpness of the ashen pine sword. He didn't use the energy within the ashen pine sword. This was because he knew that the energy within the ashen pine sword could only be used 3 times, and he had to use it at the most critical moment. Now was not the time. Although he couldn't use the energy within the ashen pine sword, the power of the great dragon sword spirit combined with the sharpness of an earth-tier treasure was beyond imagination. Sword Qi swept across the sky and covered the earth as the terrifying sword light slashed towards the heavenly Netherbird. The heavenly Netherbird roared again and again as a surge of energy surged into the sky. In an instant, it shattered the thousands of sword lights and quickly bombarded Lin Xian. The battle between the two was extremely intense. The entire sky was annihilated by the energy. However, this time the heavenly Netherbird was prepared, so it was difficult for Lin Xian to succeed. Lin Xian gritted his teeth and decided to use the ashen pine sword's energy. His opponent's aura was growing stronger and stronger. In the next moment, the ashen pine sword in his hand emitted a blinding light. The sword light was like a green flame that lit up the entire sky. Lin Xian gritted his teeth and quickly slashed with his sword. A huge beam of sword Qi slashed forward, and wherever it passed, the sword Qi would be destroyed. Wherever it passed, dozens of palaces were turned into ashes. These palaces were the buildings of the Ashen Pine Palace. They were extremely sturdy and couldn't be damaged by anyone below the king level. But now, under the aftermath of the sword Qi, countless palaces were shattered. This slash was too terrifying. It contained the power of the great dragon sword spirit and the ashen pine sword. Everything in its path was turned into nothingness. As if feeling the terror of this energy, the heavenly Netherbird's expression changed. He didn't expect the opponent to be able to use this kind of sword Qi. This power still exceeded that of a venerable one and could threaten him. Chapter 1225. No, this is definitely not that brat's energy. The heavenly Netherbird's expression changed drastically. Although the sword Qi from before was spiritual energy, it could feel that it was the power of an honorable. But now, the sword Qi was so sharp that it made it tremble in fear. Moreover, there was a power that surpassed the honorable realm. Damn it, he used the power of the Tsang Song sword. The heavenly Netherbird was shocked. It was too familiar with this power. Back then, Song Song had used this power to seal it. It did not expect to see this power again after a few thousand years. Sensing the threat, the heavenly Netherbird roared. The flames on its body spread out like the flames of hell, burning everything. The entire void collapsed under the flames. So what if it's the power of the Tsang Song sword? I didn't waste my thousands of years underground. Today, I'll let you see the sword technique I created. 9 underworld demonic sword come out. The heavenly Netherbird roared. Suddenly, the black feathers on its body burned fiercely. Then it rose into the air and quickly formed a huge black sword in the air. The black sword was huge. It was dozens of feet long and was formed by the heavenly Netherbirds' black feathers. Its surface was covered with black flames that burned fiercely, emitting a terrifying and violent power. The black flames were like the flames of hell. The black sword was like a demonic sword from hell. It carried with it endless killing intent, as if it wanted to destroy everything. The heavenly Netherbird stretched out its huge beast claws and grabbed the 9 underworld demonic sword. Then it swept it out. Monstrous flames surged out and boundless killing intent surged. The sword directly cut the void open. Clang! In the next moment, the Song Song sword and the 9 underworld demonic sword collided, creating an earth-shattering sound. The entire ground crumbled, and terrifying cracks appeared one after another. Lava spewed out from the cracks, reaching hundreds of feet high. Lin Xian, on the other hand, was also struck by the shockwave and was sent flying. Huge cracks appeared on the red lotus armor on his body. It wasn't that the armor wasn't strong enough, but that the sword chi was too terrifying. Even with Lin Xian's red lotus armor, which was condensed using his spiritual energy, it couldn't withstand it at all. Unless it was the true red lotus armor, it might be able to block the sword chi. Wounds appeared on Lin Xian's body, so deep that his bones could be seen. Other than these sword marks, there were many places on his body that had been burned by the black flames. There was nothing he could do about it. The 9 underworld demonic sword was too terrifying. Moreover, it was slashed out by the heavenly Netherbird, so its power was unimaginable. Fortunately, Lin Xian had used the power of the azure pine sword to block most of the sword chi. Otherwise, that sword strike from before would have been enough to take his life. Even so, he was still in a very dangerous situation. This was because he could only use the ashen pine sword's power 2 more times. After that, the ashen pine sword would shatter. On the other hand, the heavenly Netherbird was different. It was a peerless, vicious beast, and it had a demonic weapon like the 9 hell demon sword. Its power could be used without limit. This was undoubtedly a huge threat to him. Therefore, Lin Xian would not waste the next 2 bursts of energy. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian used the longevity secret art to quickly heal the injuries in his body. Then he soared into the sky, and the azure pine sword in his hand quickly drew a mysterious trajectory in the air. Gale lightning sword, 5 sword demonic annihilation. At the crucial moment, Lin Xian used the Gale lightning sword, and it was the final 5th sword. Originally, the 5th sword required the power of a king to use, but now that he had the azure pine sword, he could use it earlier. Even so, Lin Xian's body had reached its limit. It was as if it would collapse at any moment. However, Lin Xian was fearless. He gritted his teeth and waved his arms with all his might, unleashing a terrifying martial path, sword chi. 5 giant swords rapidly appeared in the sky, as if they had been unleashed by a god. It was terrifying to the extreme. Not only that, but a desolate aura was emitted from those sword shadows. The 5 sword shadows were like heavenly swords that surrounded Lin Xian, temporarily isolating the aura of the underworld demonic realm. Looking at the 5 sword shadows, the sky Netherbird narrowed its eyes. To be honest, this human brat had exceeded its expectations. His opponent was clearly only a 7th sky venerable, but the battle strength he displayed was not weaker than a king. This greatly shocked the sky Netherbird. In addition to the power of the azure pine sword, his opponent's sword chi also had an unusually sharp offensive aura. That aura made the sky Netherbird feel uneasy in the depths of its heart. It had only felt this kind of uneasiness in the past when it fought Taoist Song Song. Moreover, it had lost that battle and had been thoroughly defeated. Therefore, when it felt this uneasiness again, killing intent surged in the sky Netherbbird's heart. Therefore, it would not let Lin Xian go. Brat, it's useless. Although your strength has exceeded my expectations, it's not your strength. Therefore, you can't defeat me. Moreover, once the underworld demonic sword is unleashed, even if you have the azure pine sword, you have no chance. However, Lin Xian ignored it. Even now, he had no reason to give up. In the next moment, he took a deep breath and slashed down with the azure pine sword. Immediately, the 5 sword shadows in the sky slashed down together with his movement. The 5 sword shadows were like the swords of the heavens, containing an invincible aura. It was as if nothing could stop it. Even if it was a god or a demon, it would still be killed. The sky netherbird roared as it held the underworld demonic sword. Its body emitted monstrous demonic chi, making it look like a peerless demon. It opened and closed, slashing out several sword chi. The terrifying underworld demonic sword chi soared into the sky and clashed with the giant sword. When the two energies collided, an apocalyptic energy exploded out. Then the entire space was affected. The Azure Pine Palace shook incessantly, and countless buildings were turned to ashes by the energy. Lin Xian was also sent flying by the energy. The heavenly netherbird's gigantic body was constantly retreating like a mountain. Every step it took caused the entire world to tremble. Not only that, but the sky was also filled with blood. Some of it was Lin Xian's, and some of it was the sky netherbird's. The crimson dragon was like a red bolt of lightning. It shuttled through the endless torrent and accurately captured the sky netherbird's blood. However, this energy was too violent. He was sent flying dozens of times, but every time he would fly back again without any regard for his life. In the end, the heavenly serene bird's blood was completely absorbed by him, and the violent energy gradually weakened until it finally disappeared. More than half of the buildings in the Azure Pine Palace were destroyed. The ground was pierced through, and there were countless black cracks in the sky that had yet to heal. This attack was too terrifying. Chapter 1226. Brett, how are you? The crimson dragon quickly ran to Lin Xian's side. Cough, cough. Lin Xian kept coughing, and every time he coughed, he spat out a large mouthful of blood. This time his injuries were even worse. All the bones in his body were broken, and his internal organs were severely injured. Fortunately, he had the art of longevity, and his body was very strong, so he did not die immediately. I have dragon blood here. Drink it quickly. The crimson dragon stretched out its claws. This was a critical moment, and it had to let Lin Xian recover quickly. Otherwise, they would be in danger. No need. Lin Xian shook his head and said with difficulty, I took all the storage rings of the people from the Palace of Gods of War. Duan Tianqing's storage ring had an immortal golden pill. With that pill, no matter how serious your injuries are, you can recover instantly. So don't worry, you won't die. That shocking attack had affected both Lin Xian and the heavenly netherbird. The heavenly netherbird's huge body kept retreating, and it only stopped after retreating a few hundred feet. Deep craters were formed on the ground one after another. Not only that, but the heavenly netherbird was also injured. There was a terrifying sword wound on its body that was dozens of feet long. At this moment, endless blood flowed out of the wound and seeped into the ground. However, the blood was quickly transferred to another place because the crimson dragon had set up a formation to collect the heavenly netherbird's blood. Brat, you dare to hurt me? The heavenly netherbird's voice was ferocious. It did not expect a human brat to be able to injure it. This was beyond its expectations. Of course, it knew that the culprit was the ashen pine sword. I want to see how many times you can use that broken sword. It found that the ashen pine sword was severely damaged, and it could only use it a few times. Therefore, as long as the ashen pine sword was broken, it had 100 ways to make Lin Xian suffer. However, in the next moment, its face turned ugly again. This was because he discovered that Lin Xian, who was facing him, had suffered extremely heavy injuries, but had recovered in an instant. Even the spiritual energy he had consumed had been completely replenished. Damn it, this guy really has a lot of things in his hands. The heavenly serene bird's expression was ferocious. In the next moment, flames surged all over its body and healed its wounds. At his level, as long as it wasn't a fatal injury, he could heal it immediately. Seeing that the heavenly netherbird's wounds had also healed, Lin Xian's expression became extremely serious. But now the arrow had already been knocked, and it had to be released. Thus, in the next moment, he once again gripped the azure pine sword, and his entire body became incomparably fierce. The great dragon sword soul in his body quickly revolved, and at the same time, a cyan dragon-shaped sword shadow quickly condensed in front of him. This time, Lin Xian summoned the great dragon sword soul. At that moment, his great dragon sword soul had reached the 8th heavenly layer of the exalted realm. It had become very clear, and he could even see the dragon scales on it. As soon as the great dragon sword soul appeared, countless dragon roars resounded. A terrifying aura spread out in all directions. That aura caused even the heavenly serene bird's expression to change. Damn it, what is this thing? Why does it make me feel so terrified? The heavenly serene bird's expression changed drastically. He didn't expect that other than the azure pine sword, his opponent had something else that could make him feel afraid. This was beyond his expectations. Who is this kid? Why is he so strange? No, I have to kill him. Otherwise, when he grows up, he will be a great threat to me. The heavenly serene bird's killing intent surged. He couldn't let this kid in front of him live. Thus, he gripped the 9 darkness demonic sword tightly and quickly slashed forward. The black sword chi streaked across the void like a thunderclap, causing the entire void to shake. This was the demonic sword chi, the heavenly serene bird's most powerful weapon. At that moment, it was even more shocking. Perhaps even a true king would have to retreat in the face of such power. However, Lin Xian didn't dodge. The red lotus armor on his body condensed once again, making him look like a god of war. At that moment, he gripped the ashen pine sword tightly in his right hand and the great dragon sword soul in his left. Then he clasped his hands together, and the ashen pine sword and the great dragon sword soul merged together. The combination of the two exploded with a dazzling light. Countless dragon roars resounded as a shocking sword chi shot into the sky. At that moment, not only did the ashen pine sword come to life, but it also seemed to have recovered to its peak. An azure-green long sword appeared in the void, emitting a dazzling light. Lin Xian held the long sword in his hand and stood in the void like a peerless king. His entire body emitted a powerful sword aura. In the next moment, he swung his arm and unleashed a shocking sword strike. The sword chi was like a rainbow that streaked across the void, causing the mountains and rivers to lose their color. The green sword shadow transformed into a giant dragon that roared and charged forward. The dazzling light was so bright that no one could look directly at it. The powerful aura caused the entire sky to tremble. What? This power is even stronger than before. Feeling the sword chi in the air, the heavenly netherbird's face turned ugly. He did not expect his opponent to be able to unleash an even stronger sword chi. The sword chi was a huge threat to him, so he snorted coldly and gripped the 9 darkness demonic sword tightly again. He quickly unleashed several sword chi that formed a huge sword net that pressed forward. However, he had underestimated the power of the great dragon sword soul and the ashen pine sword. The combination of the two still surpassed the power of a king. Therefore, the black sword net in the sky was instantly shattered. The terrifying dragon-shaped sword chi quickly enveloped the heavenly netherbird. Rumble! In front of him, the entire ground caved in. Countless sword chi pierced through the heavens and earth like a sudden clap of thunder, causing the sky to shake. The heavenly netherbird's body was completely submerged in the sword chi. Blood dyed the ground red and the sky shook. The heavenly netherbird was even more severely injured. However, in the next moment, he let out a mournful roar. "Brat, I didn't want to use my true power, but you're the one who's competing with me." The heavenly netherbird's roar was followed by an extremely terrifying power that exploded from his body. Not only that, the countless sword chi in front of him retreated as if they were being pushed away by something and flew in all directions. In the next moment, the heavenly netherbird's terrifying body appeared again. Beside him, there was a flickering, black domain. It was like an independent space of flames that surrounded him. Brat, you've angered me. You're dead. Even with the ashen pine sword, you won't be able to escape death today. The heavenly netherbird became extremely ferocious. Originally, he did not care about dealing with an ant. However, he did not expect this ant to injure him twice, forcing him to use his true power. Not good. This is the power of a domain. The crimson dragon exclaimed. His face became very serious. Damn it, I was too careless. Previously, I thought that he was bound by the star chains and could not use much power. I did not expect him to be able to use a domain. This is really surprising. Domain? What's that? Chapter 1227. Lin Xian's face was also pale. With his outstanding soul power, he could naturally feel how terrifying that flame domain was. That flame domain made his hair stand on end. A domain is also called a king's domain. It's something that can only be obtained after entering the king realm. Sovereigns use their martial spirits as a source of energy, while kings use their domains as a source of energy. A king's domain is an independent domain developed from the martial spirits. Within this domain, the opponent's battle power can be multiplied. The Crimson Dragon's explanation shocked Lin Xian. He realized that this domain was similar to a small independent space. Of course, it hadn't become a real space, but it was still terrifying. Once he fell into the other party's domain, he was afraid that only death awaited him. Brat, you should be proud to die under my 9 underworld devil flame domain. The heavenly netherbird's voice was cold. Around him, countless black flames formed a unique domain that was like hell. It was extremely terrifying. In the next moment, his huge body charged towards Lin Xian with the 9 underworld devil flame domain. The domain's power was too terrifying. Everywhere it passed, the void was shattered. It could be said that the domain contained the essence of a king's energy. It was extremely powerful, and even sovereigns couldn't contend against it. Facing the heavenly netherbird's king's domain, Lin Xian's expression was extremely solemn. There was only a bit of energy left in the azure pine sword. He had to kill it in one strike. Otherwise, without the azure pine sword, he wouldn't be able to fight against the heavenly netherbird. Looking at the heavenly netherbird getting closer and closer, Lin Xian took a deep breath and slowly raised the azure pine sword. Haha, it's useless. You can't break my king's domain. The heavenly netherbird sneered. I'll let you know what hell is in a moment. Damn it, brat. Why don't we leave? Don't fight with him anymore. This guy can use the king's domain. His battle power is definitely super strong. The Crimson Dragon's expression was also unsightly. However, Lin Xian decisively shook his head. He had to continue fighting, because there was still a chance of survival if he fought, but running away meant certain death. Looking at the 9 underworld's devil flame domain that was getting closer and closer, Lin Xian's sword god erupted with a resplendent light. In the next moment, just as he was about to slash out with his sword, an old sigh came from the void. Sigh. This voice was low, but it was incomparably clear. As soon as it appeared, it caused the entire deep pine hall to tremble violently. Even the heavenly netherbird that was flying in front of him suddenly stopped. Its face was filled with fear as if it had seen a ghost. Damn it! Who is it? Get out here! The heavenly netherbird seemed to have been provoked as it roared crazily. Its roar caused the entire void to boil and set off countless shockwaves. Lin Xian's arm also stopped in midair. He could clearly hear that the sigh came from the azure pine sword. Could it be? Lin Xian slowly lowered his arm and looked at the azure pine sword in his hand, his expression uncertain. At that moment, the old voice sounded again. Tianyu, I didn't expect that after thousands of years you would really come out. Hearing this voice, the heavenly nether bird immediately exploded. It screamed in fear. Old man Song Song, how is this possible? Aren't you already dead? Humans and monsters were not the same. Monsters had long lives, so it was not a problem for them to live for thousands of years. Humans, on the other hand, were different. Even the strongest kings could only live for 2,000 to 3,000 years. It was impossible for them to live any longer. Therefore, even though the heavenly nether bird could not defeat Song Song, it was still alive while Song Song was dead. Impossible. Old man Song Song can't have lived for so long. Who are you? Stop pretending to be a ghost. Get out here. Back then it was because you were too cruel. That's why I sealed you. I didn't expect that after thousands of years, not only did it not erase your ruthlessness, it even made you worse. You've really wasted my painstaking efforts. The old voice sounded again. Then a pale figure leisurely floated out from the azure pine sword. It was an old man with white hair and a white beard. He wore a Taoist robe and had the demeanor of an immortal. Old man Song Song, it's really you. Seeing the illusory figure, the heavenly nether bird could not help but scream. His eyes were filled with fear and dread. Damn you, old man Song Song. You actually dared to seal me for thousands of years. This time, I'll definitely destroy your nest. With that, the heavenly nether bird coldly snorted, and the 9 underworld devil flame domain burned fiercely. Carrying the king's domain, he charged towards Lin Xian in an even more violent manner. Feeling this energy, Lin Xian's scalp went numb. The pale figure in front of him sighed. Then, with a grab, the azure pine sword in Lin Xian's hand flew into the old man's hand. In the next moment, the azure pine sword exploded with a bright light. It was like a green sun, shining in all directions. A shocking aura exploded from the longsword. This sword chi was too terrifying. Just the aftermath alone caused a 1,000-meter-long crack in space. Song Song held the azure pine sword in one hand and quickly slashed out a ray of sword chi. The sword chi was thousands of feet long. It was like a green dragon roaring in the sky. This sword slashed directly towards the heavenly nether bird and fiercely hit the 9 underworld devil flame domain in front of him. Immediately, a shocking explosion occurred. The devil flame domain was mercilessly torn apart, causing a terrifying crack to appear. The heavenly nether bird was even more affected. Its mountain-like body was sent flying. Damn it, this is impossible. You're just a broken soul. How can you have such powerful strength? The heavenly nether bird went crazy. It could not believe it. That sword chi was too terrifying. It almost split open its 9 underworld devil flame domain. Although his strength had been greatly reduced in the past few thousand years, and he was no longer as powerful as he was in the past, not just anyone could split open his domain. Moreover, the opponent was just an afterimage of Song Song's soul. It could not use much power. Song Song was also very surprised. He looked at the azure pine sword in his hand. His eyes flashed. What a powerful sword spirit. It's rare in the world. Young man, is this your sword spirit? Song Song looked at Lin Xian. Greetings, senior. That is indeed my sword spirit. Lin Xian answered honestly. Not bad, not bad. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Even I didn't have such a sharp sword soul back then. Young man, your future is limitless. Song Song said. Senior is too kind. Lin Xian and Song Song were talking. On the other side, the heavenly nether bird was going crazy with anger. Ever since he broke out of the seal, he had not met with anything that went smoothly. Now, even Song Song's afterimage had appeared. This made him very uneasy. Old thing, you're just an afterimage. You can't use much power. Once I kill you, I'll destroy your entire Azure Pine Palace. Let's see who can stop me. Chapter 1228. Indeed, you're right. I'm only a broken soul. I can't stop you. Hearing this, Lin Xian's expression changed. Senior, please use your full strength to subdue this ancient demonic beast. Otherwise, if he escapes, the entire Tianwu continent will be in chaos. The Crimson Dragon stomped his feet in anger. Fuck, this old man's strength isn't enough, but he still dares to come out. Song Song wasn't anxious at all. He slowly said, "Although I can't kill him, I can still teach him a lesson." "Then I'll have to ask Senior to do it," Lin Xian said. He didn't want to fight with the terrifying, heavenly Netherbird anymore. It was a King Realm expert, and it even had a King Realm domain. It was too terrifying. However, old Taoist Song Song stared at Lin Xian and asked in a low voice, "Young man, do you want to try beating up Tian Yu?" What? Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon were both stunned. Beating the heavenly Netherbird? How was that possible? Unless Lin Xian was a King Realm expert. The Crimson Dragon also muttered, "It's over, it's over. This old man is crazy." In the distance, the heavenly Netherbird laughed. "Old man Song Song, I think you're crazy. A broken soul imprint wants to beat me? What a joke." The heavenly Netherbird's expression was one of disdain. If it was Song Song at his peak, he might be afraid. But now, it was just a broken soul imprint. He didn't need to worry. Lin Xian also had a strange expression on his face. "Senior, you're not joking, right?" Beating the heavenly Netherbird was indeed exciting. But Lin Xian knew that it was impossible. After all, the heavenly Netherbird was an existence that even kings feared. How could he beat it? However, Song Song smiled. "Don't worry. Since I said so, I naturally have a way. Although I can't raise your cultivation to the King Realm, I can suppress the heavenly Netherbird's cultivation to the Sovereign Realm." "You're talking about the astral chains." Lin Xian's pupils shrank as he thought of a possibility. "That's right, it's indeed the astral chains. Back then, I used the astral chains to trap him, just in case. I didn't expect that I would finally have to use it now," Song Song said slowly. In the distance, the heavenly Netherbird's expression changed when it heard this. He realized that the old Taoist Song Song's words were very likely to come true because the 4 astral chains on his body were too miraculous. They had been suppressing him all these years, and not only had his cultivation not improved, it had actually weakened. Now, that old Taoist Song Song's broken soul had recovered, and with the help of the stellar key, his cultivation might really be suppressed. At that time, he would probably be in trouble. Damned old ghost, go to hell. The heavenly Netherbird went crazy. It held the Netherworld Demon Sword and used its king's domain to quickly charge forward. This time, he was truly determined to kill. He was determined to kill all of them. However, old Taoist Song Song took the stellar key from Lin Xian and quickly formed a seal. Suddenly, the stellar key released a dazzling light and formed a starry sky map in the air. Numerous stars were floating and spinning in the void, flickering unsteadily. When the starry sky map appeared, the heavenly Netherbird screamed in pain. The astral chains on his body seemed to have come alive and were making clanking sounds. The originally pitch-black chain had shed its black outer layer and was now emitting an azure light. Every ray of light formed a star. In the end, the 4 astral chains carried a sky full of stars and completely surrounded the heavenly Netherbird. No, the heavenly Netherbird roared crazily and used its king's domain to resist. However, it had been suppressed for thousands of years, and its strength was not as strong as before. Moreover, the astral chains were specifically used to suppress it. Therefore, it did not struggle for long before it was surrounded by the stars. The direct result was that the king's domain around the heavenly Netherbird quickly disappeared. Not only that, its aura plummeted, and it quickly fell to the honorable realm. In the end, the heavenly Netherbird's cultivation stopped at the 8th heaven of the honorable realm. Soon, the stars in the sky disappeared, and the heavenly Netherbird's huge figure appeared. However, at this moment, its aura was no longer as strong as before. Not only that, but its eyes were also filled with fear. It was no longer an invincible existence. It was only at the 8th heaven of the honorable realm. It won't be able to maintain this state for long, so it's best to end this quickly. After using the secret technique, the old Taoist Song-Song's figure became abnormally blurry, as if it would disappear at any time. "Thank you, Senior," Lin Xian said respectfully. Then he turned to look at the heavenly netherbird, his eyes shining. If it was the heavenly netherbird before, he would not be able to fight against it. However, it was different now. The heavenly netherbird was suppressed to the 8th heaven of the honorable realm, which was the same strength as him. Therefore, he was not afraid of it at all. With a clang, Lin Xian pulled out the Lone Star sword from his back and quickly attacked. Astral sword technique. He waved his sword, and countless sword rays shot into the sky, turning into meteors that bombarded the heavenly netherbird. This sword technique was comprehended by Lin Xian in the astral pavilion. When he used it now, it could be said to be extremely powerful. "Ah, reptile, go to hell!" The heavenly netherbird fought back with all its might. Although its king's domain was gone, its 9 underworld demon sword was still there. Therefore, it held a huge black demon sword and quickly met the attack. Bang, 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 bang. The two exchanged dozens of blows, and the heavenly netherbird was defeated. "Ah, I'm so angry." The heavenly netherbird was so angry that its lungs were about to explode. It was an ancient demon beast, and a peerless beast on the heaven ranking. Now that it was defeated by a young human, it could not accept it. However, its cultivation was completely suppressed, and it could not use it at all. Therefore, even if it was angry, there was nothing it could do. Moreover, the human youth in front of it had truly shocked it. Previously, it thought that the other party could only fight against it because of the Song-Song sword. But now its cultivation was suppressed to the 8th heaven of the honorable realm, which was 1 level higher than the other party. However, it still could not defeat the other party. Moreover, the other party was not using the Song-Song sword. This made it understand that the young man in front of it was definitely not an ordinary martial artist. He should be a genius among the human martial artists, someone who could fight above his level. After being sent flying again, the heavenly netherbird was in an extremely sorry state. It gritted its teeth and roared, "Brat, I'll spare your life today. Once I recover my strength, I'll tear you to pieces." With that, it turned around and flew into the sky. It spread its huge wings and was about to fly into the sky. It had been too humiliating today, and its cultivation had been suppressed. It did not want to fight anymore. It wanted to find a place to break the suppression of the astral chains, and then come back to kill these people. At that time, no one would be able to stop it. Unfortunately, it was too optimistic. How could Lin Xian let it go? Chapter 1229. Therefore, Lin Xian used the dragon-catching hand the moment the sky serene bird flew into the sky. 2 huge dragons coiled around each other, forming a giant hand that grabbed towards the sky. In the next moment, the sky serene bird was caught by the dragon-catching hand. "Get lost!" The sky serene bird struggled as black flames burned all over its body. It wanted to retract the giant hand. However, the dragon-catching hand was extremely mysterious. Legend had it that it could even capture a giant dragon, let alone a sky serene bird. Furthermore, the dragon-catching hand was infused with the power of the great dragon sword spirit by Lin Xian. It was extremely powerful. The 2 real dragons roared. They were so lifelike, as if they were real. They quickly coiled around the heavenly serene bird and dragged it downwards. Boom! The sky serene bird crashed into the ground, creating a huge crater. Lin Xian waved his hand, and 4 huge light swords of wind, thunder, water, and fire appeared, surrounding the sky serene bird and trapping it. Lin Xian held the killing sword in his hand and walked forward step by step. "I'll give you a chance. Hand over a little bit of essence blood and a trace of flame origin, and I'll let you go. Otherwise, don't blame me for beating you up." Lin Xian was very excited. He never thought that he would be able to beat the sky serene bird up one day. This feeling was too good. "Brat, you're courting death." The sky serene bird roared in anger. However, what awaited it was a sharp sword. The The sword landed on the Sky Serene bird's body and made a huge sound. However, what was shocking was that such a sharp sword did not leave a single mark on the Sky Serene bird's body. This caused Lin Xian to be incomparably shocked. However, he quickly understood. This was because the Sky Serene bird was very similar to the Crimson Dragon. They both had strong physiques, but their cultivations were suppressed. The Sky Serene bird screamed and roared. He knew that his opponent was able to injure him previously because of the Ashen Pine sword. Without the Ashen Pine sword, his opponent would not be able to break through his defense. Knowing this, he completely relaxed. Ha ha ha, lowly worm. So what if you've trapped me? With your strength, you can't break through my defense. The Sky Serene bird sneered. Humph, I really don't know what you have to be so proud of. Lin Xian coldly snorted and quickly waved his sword. Sword Qi shot out like rainbows and ruthlessly slashed the heavenly Netherbird's body. The Sky Serene bird forgot one thing. Although Lin Xian's long sword couldn't break through its defense, it didn't mean that the sword Qi wouldn't hurt. Therefore, it didn't take long for the heavenly Netherbird to start screaming. Damned brat, I'll tear you to shreds later. The heavenly Netherbird gritted its teeth and stared fiercely at Lin Xian. You dare to threaten me? With another slash, the heavenly serene bird wailed again. However, what shocked Lin Xian the most was that the heavenly Netherbird's physique was too strong. Even after slashing so many times, he still couldn't hurt it. This was simply inconceivable. Kid, stop. Don't waste your energy. You won't be able to break through his defense if you continue like this. The Crimson Dragon shook its head. As an ancient divine beast, it naturally knew how strong the heavenly Netherbird's physique was. In order to break through the heavenly Netherbird's defense, one would need to be at least at the king level, or Lin Xian would need to use the Song Song sword. However, Lin Xian didn't dare to use the Song Song sword because there was no more energy inside. If he used it, the Song Song sword would probably break. At that time, the old Taoist Song Song's shadow might disappear as well. At that time, who knew if the starry chains would still be effective? How about I set up a killing formation? I don't believe that I can't break through this guy's defense. The Crimson Dragon was also thinking, should I set up an immortal execution formation or a demon slaughter formation? The names of these formations caused the heavenly Netherbird to tremble slightly because these were all famous formations from the ancient times. Although it didn't believe that Lin Xian would be able to set them up, it was still very surprised. This was because it realized that the Crimson Dragon was probably the same as it was. It was also a peerless, vicious beast, but it had lost its cultivation. However, Lin Xian shook his head slightly. There was no need to go through so much trouble. He would try using the 10,000 bee sting. With that, Lin Xian took out the 10,000 bee sting. When the black cauldron appeared, the heavenly Netherbird's pupils shrank and it screamed. An earth rank artifact. It didn't notice it during the battle, but now that it was looking at it up close, it immediately felt that the 10,000 bee sting was extraordinary. With its knowledge, it naturally recognized that the Black Cauldron was an Earth rank artifact. Moreover, it was a complete Earth rank artifact. Immediately, the heavenly Netherbird broke out in cold sweat. It didn't think that a few humans would have a complete Earth rank artifact. Moreover, Lin Xian was only a sovereign. Even the old Taoist Song Song's shadow was shocked. Humph! An Earth rank artifact requires a huge amount of power. It's impossible to use it without reaching the king realm. The heavenly Netherbird held onto its last glimmer of hope. However, it soon despaired because Lin Xian didn't use it at all. Instead, Lin Xian raised his arm and smashed the 10,000 bee sting towards it. Clang! Lin Xian used the black 10,000 bee sting as a brick and smashed it against the heavenly Netherbird's body, causing a deafening sound to resound. The heavenly Netherbird was in so much pain that it started to cry. Lin Xian's arm was also numb. Damn it, its defense is so strong. I don't believe that an Earth rank artifact can't break through it. Lin Xian gritted his teeth and used all his strength to grab the 10,000 beast ding again and smack it. This time, the heavenly netherbird was in so much pain that it wanted to die. Lin Xian's face was gloomy because he still hadn't broken through it. Brat, you're hitting the wrong place. Hit its head. The crimson dragon decisively grabbed the 10,000 beast sting and smashed its claw on the heavenly netherbird's head. The heavenly netherbird saw stars and almost fainted. After this attack, the heavenly netherbird was completely convinced. It was simply too painful. Unlike the Lone Star Sword, the 10,000 beast sting was a true Earth rank artifact. Its power was no joke. Although it didn't have any external injuries, it had suffered internal injuries. Many of its bones had been broken. Stop. I'll agree. The heavenly netherbird roared. It's just a drop of essence blood and a trace of flame essence. I'll give it to you. It was completely terrified. You should have done this from the start. Lin Xian let out a sigh of relief. You didn't have to force me to use my last resort. The crimson dragon's eyes were wide open. It had finally obtained the heavenly netherbird's essence blood. In the next moment, the heavenly netherbird reluctantly handed over a drop of essence blood. A drop of essence blood was only the size of a fist. Although it looked small, the energy it contained was incomparably pure. The crimson dragon's face was filled with ecstasy. It hugged the essence blood and quickly dived into the beast bag. Brat, I'll go into seclusion for a few days. The crimson dragon roared excitedly. His roar woke up the snow-white monkey. The latter unhappily rubbed its eyes and jumped onto Lin Xian's shoulder. Lin Xian rubbed Little White's furry head and stared at the heavenly netherbird. Okay, I've given you the essence blood. Next is the flame essence. Chapter 1230. The heavenly serene bird gritted its teeth and unwillingly pulled out a black feather from its tail. It contained a trace of the origin flame. The heavenly serene bird threw it to Lin Xian. However, it was snatched away by the little white monkey. Little White looked at the feather and shook its head. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. He didn't care because he felt that Little White must have its reasons for doing so. As expected, the little white monkey threw the feather to the ground and quickly scanned the heavenly serene bird's body with its black gemstone eyes. Damn monkey, what are you doing? For some reason, the heavenly serene bird was scared by the little white monkey. However, the little white monkey didn't care at all. It stared at a black feather on the heavenly serene bird's tail and quickly flew over. Damn monkey, you're looking for death. Get out of my way. Seeing the little white monkey's actions, the heavenly serene bird almost went berserk. Although the feather that it gave Lin Xian contained the origin flame, it was very rare. It didn't give anything good. However, it didn't expect the little white monkey to find it and target the feather on its body. How could it tolerate this? Therefore, it tried its best to dodge. However, in the next moment, a furry paw gently patted its head. It saw stars. The world was spinning. It felt terrible. Although it didn't faint, it couldn't move at all. The dizziness lasted for a short time. However, it was enough for the little white monkey to pull out the black feather. Therefore, when the heavenly serene bird woke up again, Lin Xian still had the origin feather. You. The heavenly serene bird stared at the little white monkey and Lin Xian with murderous intent in its eyes. That was an origin feather. It contained a large amount of origin flame. Now that it was taken away, its strength was definitely affected. However, Lin Xian was very satisfied. He could naturally sense that the black flame aura contained within the feather before him was much denser. The origin flame contained in this black feather was clearly much stronger than the previous one. It seemed like the heavenly netherbird was only trying to deal with him. It didn't plan on giving him a good origin flame, but he didn't expect the little monkey to discover it. Furthermore, from the looks of it, this feather must be extremely important to the heavenly netherbird. Since that was the case, Lin Xian happily accepted it. After obtaining the primordial feather, it wouldn't be long before Lin Xian would be able to condense a flame martial soul. At that time, he would have 4 martial souls. His combat strength would definitely reach a terrifying level. However, he didn't leave immediately because Lin Xian knew that once the heavenly Netherbird regained its strength, it would chase him all over the world. Therefore, he had to come up with some life-saving methods. In the next moment, Lin Xian controlled the 10,000 bee sting and planted a beast slave seal in the heavenly Netherbird. Although he knew that the beast slave seal couldn't completely control the heavenly serene bird, it could still restrict it. Moreover, if he was really anxious, he could use the 10,000 beast cauldron and the beast slave seal. After doing all this, Lin Xian no longer cared about the heavenly Netherbird. Instead, he turned to old Taoist Song Song and bowed seriously. Then, he turned into a ray of sword light and left. "Damn brat, you dare to steal my primordial feather and plant a beast slave seal in me? No matter where you run to, I'll kill you." The heavenly Netherbird roared at the sky. It had never suffered such a huge loss before. On the side, old Taoist Song Song looked at this scene and shook his head. In the next moment, the illusory figure disappeared into the stellar key. Then, the stellar key exploded with a dazzling light. Old Taoist Song Song used the last of his energy to cast a spell to suppress the heavenly Netherbird's cultivation. When all this was done, old Taoist Song Song's figure was no longer there. The Song Song sword had also turned into countless fragments and disappeared into the sky. "Damn you! Old Taoist Song Song, damn you!" The heavenly Netherbird was extremely furious. It naturally knew that it wouldn't be able to recover its strength in a short period of time. It didn't expect old Taoist Song Song to be able to suppress it even after his death. However, although it roared, there was nothing it could do. In the distance, ever since Murong Qingqing and the others left, they heard a series of roars coming from the Song Song Palace. The sound was extremely terrifying. Even though they were so far away, they could still feel a sense of fear. They naturally knew that it was the heavenly Netherbird's roar. Therefore, Murong Qingqing, Zhao Shui, and the others were all worried. This was because Lin Xian was still inside. On the other side, the people from the Palace of Gods of War sneered. "Who does that brat think he is? How dare he negotiate with the heavenly Netherbird? He's really courting death. Don't worry, he's dead. He won't be able to come out this time. It's just a pity that we lost those treasures." Thinking about the stolen storage rings, the martial artists from the Palace of Gods of War gritted their teeth. However, they didn't dare to act rashly because the heavenly Netherbird's terrifying aura was still present. Moreover, they soon felt a violent energy fluctuation coming from behind them. It seemed that there was a great battle going on. The battle was extremely intense. It was even more intense than the honorable realm. This power, how is it possible? Are there kings fighting? One of the powers belonged to the heavenly Netherbird, but who was the other one? Could it be Lin Xian? Impossible. That brat is only a 7th level honorable realm. No matter how strong he is, he can't unleash the power of a king. Could there be other experts inside? Thinking of this, everyone felt a sense of fear. Fortunately, they had left quickly. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to escape if they had encountered such a terrifying expert. Everyone was paying close attention to the battle at the Pine Palace because it would determine whether they would be safe for the rest of their days. However, in the end, they realized that the terrifying energy and aura had disappeared. The battle is over? Everyone was shocked. As they were very far away, they didn't know what had happened at the Pine Palace. Both powers had disappeared. Could it be that they had perished together? If that was the case, that would be great. The people from the Palace of Gods of War were excited. Without the threat of the heavenly Netherbird, they didn't have to fear anyone. However, Murong Qingqing was very worried because they didn't know how Lin Xian was doing. "I'll go and take a look." Sensing the changes in front, Zhao Shui was prepared to go and investigate. "I'll go with you." Murong Qingqing was also worried. However, the elders of the Murong family stopped her. "Miss, we don't know the situation at the front. Why don't we wait patiently?" Murong Qingqing was their family's hope. Therefore, they didn't want him to risk his life. Just as the two sides were arguing, a sword light suddenly streaked across the void. Someone came out of the Pine Palace. Someone shouted. Immediately, everyone looked forward with bewildered expressions. Could there be someone alive after such an intense battle? Could it be that peerless expert? Chapter 1231. They were certain that it was not the heavenly Netherbird. If the heavenly Netherbird had come, it would have been a scene of destruction. However, there was no such scene, so it was not the heavenly Netherbird. Why does that figure look so familiar? F***CK, isn't that Lin Xian? Everyone exclaimed. Lin Xian? How could it be Lin Xian? How could he have survived such an intense battle? The people from the Palace of Gods of War did not believe it. They did not believe that an honorable warrior could survive a battle between kings. It was simply impossible. But in next to no time, their expressions became extremely unsightly because they'd already seen the figure clearly. It was Lin Xian. Damn it, he's still alive. How is this possible? What kind of luck did this guy have to be able to survive? The people from the Palace of Gods of War looked as if they had seen a ghost. Murong Qingqing's side cheered. Zhao Shui also heaved a sigh of relief, and a smile appeared on her cold face. She was relieved that Lin Xian was fine. Murong Qingqing also mumbled in a low voice. I knew it! This guy would be fine for sure. Lin Xian naturally saw Murong Qingqing and Zhao Shui. His body flashed, and he landed in front of them. Lin Xian, it's really you. It's great that you're fine. What can happen to me? Lin Xian shrugged. How did you get out? What's the situation in front? Is the heavenly Netherbird still alive? A group of martial artists surrounded him and kept asking him questions. There is a remnant soul left behind by a peerless warrior in the Pine Palace. He fought with the heavenly Netherbird. The heavenly Netherbird is still alive, but he's injured. I'm afraid he won't be able to recover in a short period of time. Lin Xian said. Of course, what he said was not the whole truth. At least, he did not tell everyone about the battle between him and the heavenly Netherbird. Knowing that the heavenly Netherbird was injured and would not be able to fight for a short period of time, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. As for the Palace of Gods of War side, their expressions were unfriendly as they all surrounded him. When Lin Xian took their storage rings, they didn't dare to do anything because of the pressure from the heavenly Netherbird. But now that the heavenly Netherbird was gone, they had nothing to worry about. Even though Lin Xian was strong, they had 2 8th level venerables on their side. Moreover, they had many other experts as well. Thus, they weren't afraid of Lin Xian if they really fought. Brat, I didn't expect you to be so lucky to be able to come back alive. However, don't think that you'll be fine just like that. How dare you steal our storage rings? Spit them out right now. Not only that, but you also have to hand over all the treasures on your body to make up for your crimes. Duan Tianqing had no intention of letting Lin Xian go. Looking at the group of people from the Palace of Gods of War, the Murong family was also very cautious. After all, the other party was also a huge force. If they really fought, both sides would suffer. On the other hand, Lin Xian's expression was calm. He wasn't even afraid of a powerful existence like the heavenly Netherbird, let alone these people from the Palace of Gods of War. Moreover, the battle with the heavenly Netherbird had benefited him a lot. It could be said that his battle experience had greatly increased. The people in front of him were no match for him. Last time, I was in a good mood and allowed you to use your storage rings to buy your lives. I didn't expect you to forget and provoke me again. But this time, I'm very curious. What do you want to use to buy your lives? You're courting death. Attack! Duan Tianqing roared. Then, the martial artists from the Palace of Gods of War and the Palace of Gods of War surrounded Lin Xian and the others. Duan Tianqing and Yan Feng faced off against Lin Xian, while the others stared at the people from the Morong family and the Merry Woods. "Brat, you're dead this time. I'll kill you with my own hands." Yan Feng stared at Lin Xian, his voice ferocious. However, before he could finish his sentence, he saw a human-shaped lightning bolt charging towards him. Boom! Yan Feng was caught off guard. He didn't expect Lin Xian to attack him so suddenly. There was no warning at all. Therefore, he could only passively defend. In the next moment, the boundless power of lightning quickly surrounded him. The powerful force numbed his entire body. "You're courting death." Seeing Lin Xian defeat Yan Feng in one move, Duan Tianqing roared. He quickly unleashed his martial soul and pounced on Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted. Without another word, he summoned the 10,000 beast ding, grabbed it in his hand, and slammed it forward. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out. Instantly, everyone's scalp went numb and their faces turned pale. Duan Tianqing bore the brunt of the attack and was sent flying. Damn it! Impossible! What is that thing? How can it be so powerful? Everyone was stunned. That was an 8th heaven-honored realm cultivator. It was unbelievable that he was sent flying with one move. The people from the Palace of Gods of War looked at Lin Xian with cold sweat on their faces. Now, they regretted provoking him again. In an instant, those martial artists were all stunned. They didn't dare to move at all. "Tell me, how do you want to buy your life this time?" Lin Xian stepped on Duan Tianqing's body and said coldly. Duan Tianqing was so angry that his body trembled. He spat out blood. He had never been humiliated like this before. However, Lin Xian was too strange, especially the black cauldron in his hand. It almost destroyed his martial soul in one move. This made him extremely terrified. However, he had already lost his storage ring. At this moment, he didn't have anything else to lose. Therefore, he could only grit his teeth and lie on the ground, pretending to be dead. Lin Xian naturally understood that the other party didn't have anything on him. However, he wouldn't let them off so easily. Moreover, he thought of something. He had to clarify this matter. Otherwise, there would be a lot of trouble in the future. "I need you to tell me something. If I'm satisfied with your answer, I can let you go. Otherwise, all of you can stay here forever to accompany the heavenly Netherbird." Hearing Lin Xian's words, the surrounding people trembled. Their eyes were filled with fear. Duan Tianqing also gritted his teeth and said, "Tell me, what's the problem? Why do you want to kill me? Logically speaking, even if I offended Prince Ling Feng, the Palace of Gods of War shouldn't have sent experts like you, right?" Yes, this was the question that Lin Xian had always been puzzled by. He realized that Duan Tianqing and the others weren't on the same side as Prince Ling Feng. Although both sides wanted to kill him, they weren't on the same level. Therefore, he thought that there must be some reason that he didn't know. "You don't know?" Duan Tianqing was also stunned. In his opinion, Lin Xian should have known about this matter. "It seems like those people didn't tell you." "Who? Speak clearly. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Lin Xian said coldly, "You should know that the palace master of the Palace of Gods of War is in seclusion. The vice palace master is preparing to seize power. Therefore, the Palace of Gods of War is divided into 2 factions. "Yes, I know." Lin Xian nodded. "What does that have to do with me?" Chapter 1232. Duan Tianqing took a deep breath and continued. When the palace master was in seclusion, he drew a painting and asked all the martial artists in the Palace of Gods of War to welcome and assist him. "The person in the painting is you." "What?" Hearing this, everyone was stunned. The ordinary martial artists in the Palace of Gods of War were also stunned because this painting was only seen by the higher-ups of the Palace of Gods of War. And those higher-ups didn't spread the news, so ordinary martial artists didn't know at all. This Lin Xian actually had such a close relationship with the Palace of Gods of War. The martial artists from the other factions were even more shocked. Lin Xian frowned. Then he seemed to have thought of something and quickly asked, "What's the name of your palace master? What does he look like? Hurry up and tell me." He thought of a possibility. Although it was unbelievable, he had to ask clearly. Lin Xian was very excited because he thought of a possibility, so he had to confirm it. Duan Tianxing didn't plan to hide it because this matter couldn't be hidden at all. After Lin Xian went out, the other people in the Palace of Gods of War would definitely come looking for him. The palace master of the Palace of Gods of War is called Lin Zhan. As for what he looks like, I think you should know. Lin Zhan. Hearing this name, Lin Xian's body trembled. It was just as he thought. Although he was very shocked and didn't dare to believe it, it was probably the truth. Lin Zhan was his father's name. Lin Xian didn't expect his father to be the palace master of the Palace of Gods of War. But how was this possible? One had to know that his father had only left him for about 3 years. Before that, his father had always been in the Xia country of the Tianan region. How could he suddenly become the palace master of the Palace of Gods of War? The palace master of the Palace of Gods of War was at least a king. What kind of opportunity could allow a spirit transformation realm martial artist to become a king in such a short period of time? Lin Xian didn't dare to imagine at all. However, the facts before his eyes showed that the palace master of the Palace of Gods of War was really his father. Thinking about the sword heart pendant his father gave him and the words "left in the ancestral land," Lin Xian felt that his father might not be as simple as he looked. There should be some shocking secret on him. As for what this secret was, he would probably only know when he met his father. With news of his father, all his problems were solved. Lin Xian finally understood why Duan Tianxing and the others wanted to kill him. Because Lin Xian's true identity was the young master of the Palace of Ares. In the future, if there were no accidents, he would be the one to inherit the Palace of Gods of War. How could the vice palace master allow such a threat to exist? That was why there was a series of pursuits. Lin Xian did not expect that he would be involved in this kind of power struggle for no reason at all. He was afraid that there would be many fierce battles in the future. Duan Tianxing gritted his teeth and said, "I'm done. Can you let us go now?" Scram! Lin Xian kicked him away. "Tell your vice palace master to not have any ideas about the Palace of Ares. Also, it won't be long before I personally make a trip to the Palace of Ares." Everyone gasped. Judging from Lin Xian's tone, it seemed like he wanted to start a war with the Palace of Ares. Now, many people had already guessed some terrifying news, and their eyelids twitched. They did not expect that Lin Xian had such a shocking origin. Duan Tianxing crawled up from the ground and led the Palace of Gods of War away. This time, he definitely did not dare to provoke Lin Xian again. Lin Xian also sat to the side to rest, but he was constantly thinking. He had already found his father's whereabouts. All he needed to do was meet up with them at the Palace of Gods of War. Furthermore, after doing all this, he still needed to return to the Tianan region and rescue the entire Lin family from his ice seal. After dealing with the matters of the Tianwu continent, Lin Xian would fulfill his promise to Zero and leave the Tianwu continent. He would go to a wider world and fulfill his promise. This promise was naturally related to the Niwa of Gojoseon and the legendary Danzong. Lin Xian would not forget this. In the next few days, no one ran around. Instead, they waited quietly because the day of departure was approaching. However, on the day before they left, there was another change. That was because in the distant Deep Pine Hall, an extremely berserk, demonic aura surged out. It swept through the 9 heavens as if a peerless beast had awakened. Following that, a thunderous roar rang out. "Damned brat, where are you? Come out, I'll definitely kill you." This voice was filled with boundless killing intent. When the cultivators in the distance heard this, their expressions changed, and they even began to tremble. The heavenly netherbird. That's the voice of the heavenly netherbird. Damn it, it's revived again. Not good, the heavenly netherbird is coming. Everyone run. Everyone panicked and began to flee. There was no other way. The heavenly Netherbird was too powerful. Even kings were not its match, let alone people like them. Thus they chose to hide. As long as they could hide for another day, they would be able to leave safely. Lin Xian also frowned. He did not expect the heavenly Netherbird to recover its strength so quickly. This was not good news for him. Furthermore, if the heavenly Netherbird left this place and arrived at the Tianwu continent, it would probably cause a storm of blood. Furthermore, his current strength was not enough to contend against the heavenly Netherbird. If they met again, it would be very troublesome. On the side, Zhao Shui and Murong Qingcheng looked at Lin Xian suspiciously. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Lin Xian felt his hair stand on end. "The brat that the heavenly Netherbird was talking about, could it be you? What did you do to make it so angry?" Murong Qingcheng's face was filled with doubt. Zhao Shui was also very curious. Lin Xian said indifferently, "It's nothing. I just plucked a feather from it and let it bleed a little." "What? You injured the heavenly Netherbird?" The two of them were shocked. This was shocking news. What kind of existence was the heavenly Netherbird? It was a peerless demonic beast. It was at least king level. However, such a terrifying existence was actually injured by Lin Xian. This was too inconceivable. "It's not that exaggerated. I wasn't the one fighting. I just took advantage of the situation." Seeing that Lin Xian was unwilling to say more, the two of them did not continue to ask. However, they did not stop here. Instead, they quickly fled into the distance. Right now, the only thing they could do was to leave safely and not let the heavenly Netherbird cause trouble. The heavenly Netherbird searched around and did not find Lin Xian. It was incomparably furious. Thus, it continuously bombarded everything around it. Immediately, the forest and mountain peaks were all flattened. However, this situation only lasted for half a day before the heavenly Netherbird disappeared. Not only that, the terrifying pressure also disappeared. This allowed everyone to breathe a sigh of relief. However, that night, the terrifying aura surged out once again. Lin Xian furrowed his brows when he saw this strange scene. Chapter 1233. According to his guess, the heavenly Netherbird had not completely removed the suppression of the astral chains. Furthermore, the suppression had become extremely unstable, which caused its strength to fluctuate. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. At least for now, the heavenly Netherbird was not invincible. It still had its weaknesses. This way, even if it went out, it would not dare to be too ostentatious. Otherwise, it would be surrounded by the kings of the Tianwu continent. A night of danger passed. The next day, just as the sun rose, the entire remote sky secret realm became different. Everyone felt a mysterious force rejecting them. They knew that the remote sky secret realm was about to close, and they would be teleported out. The force grew stronger and stronger. Finally, someone disappeared. Seeing this, everyone was ecstatic. The last 2 days were like a nightmare. They had spent it carefully, afraid of being discovered by the heavenly Netherbird. Now that they could leave this place and escape this danger, they were naturally overjoyed. "Lin Xian, I'll leave first. When I return to the Tianwu continent, I'll look for you." Murong Qingcheng waved her hand and left with her clansmen. On the other side, the people from the Palace of Gods of War looked at Lin Xian with complicated expressions. Then they were also teleported out. "Zhao Shui, how did you get in?" Lin Xian was very curious. However, Zhao Shui looked at Lin Xian and smiled. Lin Xian was very familiar with that smile. This was clearly the Zhao Shui he knew. However, in the next moment, that smile disappeared and was replaced with a cold expression. The Zhao Shui in front of him did not notice the change in his expression at all. Instead, she said in a deep voice, "I sneaked in from a rank 6 sect. I should be teleported back to where I came from. But don't worry, I shouldn't be in any danger." Lin Xian was not worried about this. After all, Zhao Shui was not weaker than him. Even an 8th level honorable might not be able to do anything to him. However, what really worried Lin Xian was Zhao Shui's situation and that strange smile. In that moment, Lin Xian clearly felt that the Zhao Shui he knew had returned. However, in the next moment, that feeling disappeared. This made him extremely puzzled. However, he couldn't explain it now. He could only wait and see. There's something wrong with your friend. After Zhao Shui left, Zero's voice sounded. What is it? Lin Xian asked. The cultivation technique she practices is very strange. It seems to be able to produce a second soul. What? You're saying that there are 2 souls in Zhao Shui's body? Lin Xian was shocked. You could say that. Upon hearing this, Lin Xian was completely stunned. He knew that there was something wrong with Zhao Shui's body, but he never thought that there would be 2 souls in her body. This was unbelievable to him. No wonder Zhao Shui's personality changed so drastically that she could not even recognize him. It seemed like her original soul had been suppressed. Is she in danger? Lin Xian asked. She's fine now. Her original soul should be asleep, but it will definitely be dangerous in the future. Maybe the soul produced by the cultivation method will replace her original soul. After all, the void sky eye was an extremely strange technique in the ancient era. There were many talented geniuses who practiced it, but they all fell in the end. There's actually such a thing. Lin Xian frowned. He realized that Zhao Shui was in a bad situation. What can I do to save her? The 2 of them could be said to have gone through thick and thin together, so Lin Xian would not sit back and do nothing. Don't worry. With your current strength, you can't save her. Moreover, I suspect that this cultivation method itself is a conspiracy. This matter can't be explained in a short time. Leave this place first. I'll explain it to you later. Zero's voice disappeared as a force was added to Lin Xian's body. In the next moment, Lin Xian disappeared from the spot. A mysterious force of space brought Lin Xian out of the hidden sky realm quickly. When he opened his eyes again, the scenery around him had changed drastically. It was no longer the primitive forest in the hidden sky realm, but the scenery of the Immortal Martial Arts Academy. I'm back. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. After more than 3 months, he was finally back. Lin Xian, it's Lin Xian. He's out. Below, the crowd was excited and endless shouts could be heard. Brother Xian. A group of Dragon Sword Pavilion disciples waved and shouted. Everyone's gaze fell on Lin Xian. However, in the next moment, everyone was stunned. This aura, 7th Heaven Venerable. Everyone exclaimed because they could feel a terrifying aura emanating from Lin Xian. Although he did not deliberately release it, the pressure still made their hearts jump. The surrounding elders were also shocked. If they remembered correctly, Lin Xian's cultivation should only be at the 4th Heaven Venerable when he first entered. However, they did not expect him to break through to the 7th Heaven Venerable in just a few months. This kind of breakthrough speed was truly shocking. Of course, they still didn't know that Lin Xian was now able to beat up an 8th Celestial Layer martial artist. If they knew, their jaws would probably drop from shock. Dean Xian was also surprised, but soon after he revealed a smile. As expected of the legendary person, this kid's strength and talent are indeed heaven-defying. 7th Heaven Venerable, Brother Xian, you're too strong. Wang Li and the other disciples of the Dragon Sword Pavilion rushed up and surrounded Lin Xian with exclamations of surprise. Don't worry, I brought back a lot of treasures this time. When the time comes, I'll definitely let you guys improve. Lin Xian said with a smile. He would not be stingy to the people around him. Really? That's great. Thank you, Brother Xian. Brother Xian is domineering and mighty. A group of people cheered. At this moment, the void above fluctuated again, and one figure after another appeared. Among them were Dugu Outyan, Li Yunfei, and the others. Everyone exclaimed again because they discovered that Dugu Outyen's aura had also reached the 7th heaven venerable. Although Li Yunfei's aura had not reached the 7th heaven, he had reached the peak of the 6th heaven venerable. It seemed that he would be able to enter the 7th heaven venerable soon. This made everyone exclaim. The 3 strongest disciples of Senma College had greatly improved their strength at this moment. The elders were also beaming with joy because their harvest this time was indeed not small. However, in the center of these people, there was an exceptionally shocking figure. It was a young man who was only a few years older than Dugu Outyen. He was tall and looked like a god fiend. At this moment, his body was emitting a monstrous aura. Even the elders were extremely shocked. 8th heaven venerable, everyone exclaimed as they looked at the figure, deeply shocked. Is he also a disciple of our college? Why don't I know him? Heavens, 8th heaven venerable. Such a young 8th heaven venerable. He's heaven-defying. The group of people were shocked and puzzled at the same time. Judging from his age, he should be a disciple of the college, but they did not know him at all. Chapter 1234. I know. He's a disciple from the previous batch. He's only a few years older than us. He stayed in the punishment hall after graduation. I didn't expect him to enter the remote sky secret realm this time. And his cultivation has increased to the 8th heaven of the venerable realm. Soon, the news about Meng Tian spread among the crowd. He was ranked 3rd on the previous mysterious sovereign leaderboard, a member of the punishment hall, and an 8th heaven of the venerable realm. Every piece of news shocked the crowd. Dean Xian and the others also smiled in satisfaction. Yes, someone had finally entered the 8th heaven of the venerable realm. This made them feel relieved. Actually, some people felt it was strange because the Immortal Martial Academy was also hailed as a king-ranked power. But for people like Dugu Outyen and Li Yunfei, their cultivation bases were still slightly weaker when compared to the core disciples of the royal clans. However, this did not affect Senmu College's status. Dugu Outyen and the others were still a little young. The ones who could be compared to the core disciples of the House of Kings were people like Meng Tian. These people were very young and very talented. However, according to the college's rules, they could no longer become disciples of the college. They could only stay in the punishment hall. However, in terms of age, talent, and cultivation, these people could compete with the core disciples of the House of Kings. After Meng Tian bowed to Dean Xian and the others, his eyes finally fell on Lin Xian. Dugu Outyen, Li Yunfei, and the others also looked at Lin Xian. They were then shocked. This was because they realized that Lin Xian's cultivation had also reached the 7th heaven of the venerable realm. Looking at his strong spiritual power, it did not seem like he had just reached the 7th heaven. His aura was even stronger than Dugu Outyen's. Among those present, only Meng Tian could suppress Lin Xian in terms of cultivation. This made Dugu Outyen, Li Yunfei, and the others very depressed. They originally thought that they would be able to surpass Lin Xian after coming out of the secret realm. However, they did not expect that they would still be behind. The gap between them seemed to have widened. Meng Tian was also amazed. Although his cultivation level was higher than Lin Xian's, his martialist intuition made him feel a little scared when he faced Lin Xian. This feeling was very strange. One had to know that he was at the 8th celestial layer, while Lin Xian was only at the 7th celestial layer. If this were to spread out, perhaps no one would believe it. However, Meng Tian did not let his guard down because he believed in his instincts. Junior brother Lin, we didn't see you in the end. Where were you during that time? Yeah, Lin Xian, you made us so worried. The elders shook their heads helplessly. Before they entered the remote sky secret realm, Dean Xian had reminded them to protect Lin Xian. But not long after entering the mystic realm, they would lose Lin Xian. Fortunately, Lin Xian had come out. Otherwise, if something happened to him inside, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Lin Xian also had an apologetic look on his face. He thanked the elders and everyone for their concern. He had made them worry. During the last period, I went to the Pine Palace. Lin Xian said, "What, the Pine Palace? You really went there?" Meng Tian and the rest were shocked. The elders also broke out in cold sweat. Although they didn't go to the Pine Palace, they knew a thing or two about the situation inside. They didn't expect Lin Xian to go to such a dangerous place. Junior brother Lin is indeed bold. Meng Tian was shocked. He had hesitated for a long time before, but in the end he didn't go. Not only Meng Tian, but Dugu Outyen and Li Yunfei were also surprised. The surrounding disciples were at a loss. Pine Palace? What is that place? Is it dangerous? It seems quite dangerous. Didn't you see that even senior brother Meng Tian was full of praise? It can't be. Could it be that only Lin Xian went in? The Dragon Sword Pavilion disciples also asked, "Brother Xian, what is the Pine Palace? Tell us more about it." Lin Xian scratched his nose helplessly and smiled bitterly. At this time, Meng Tian spoke again. "Although I didn't enter the Pine Palace, I know the situation inside. The Pine Palace is the core area of the remote sky secret realm. There are countless treasures inside, far more than outside." What? The core area? Hearing this, the surrounding disciples were shocked. Although they hadn't entered the remote sky secret realm, they still understood what the core area meant. "I didn't expect Lin Xian to be so lucky to enter the core area." "Yeah. Didn't you see that senior brother Meng Tian and the rest didn't go in?" The group was envious. "Lucky?" Dugu Outyen and the rest had strange expressions. "You're wrong." "Wrong? How is it wrong? Isn't there countless treasures in the core area?" The crowd was puzzled again. There are indeed countless treasures, but there are also countless dangers inside. Moreover, it's even more dangerous this time, because there's a peerless beast inside, the heavenly Netherbird. That's an ancient beast, and it's a peerless demon on the heaven leaderboard. What? The heavenly Netherbird, an ancient beast? Hearing this, the crowd trembled as fear appeared in their eyes. Needless to say, the heavenly Netherbird was extremely terrifying just by hearing its name. No wonder Meng Tian and Dugu Outyen had such expressions. It turns out that the Pine Palace is extremely dangerous, but Lin Xian dares to go in. I have to say he's too daring. Junior brother Lin, what's the strength of the heavenly Netherbird? Has it reached the 9th heaven of the honorable realm? Everyone was curious as they wanted to know how powerful the ancient beast was. 9th heaven of the honorable realm? Lin Xian shook his head. Ordinary kings can't even withstand a single blow from it. What? Even kings can't withstand a single blow? No way, it's so powerful. Everyone broke out in cold sweat as they realized that they had underestimated the ancient beast. It was definitely a peerless beast. Even Dean Xian was surprised. He did not expect such a thing to happen in the remote sky secret realm. Lin Xian was too daring to enter the same place as a king-level beast. Fortunately, he was fine. Otherwise, he would not be able to answer to the palace of gods of war. Dean Xian was also scared. Then how did you guys escape safely? Everyone was puzzled as they could not think of how they could escape from such a peerless beast. Actually, it wasn't too bad. With the protection of the ancient expert's remnant soul, the heavenly Netherbird did not cause much harm. Lin Xian explained briefly. Everyone came to a sudden realization. So that was how it was. But thinking about it, it should be extremely dangerous. The disciples continued to discuss as they asked the disciples who had entered the secret realm. The scene was very lively. However, at this moment, Dean Xian frowned as she looked at the sky. Lin Xian's heart was beating wildly as his face turned serious. This was because the 10,000 beast ding in his body was vibrating as if it was reminding him. Recently, he had only used the 10,000 beast ding to plant a beast mark on the heavenly Netherbird. Other than that, he had not done anything else. Now that the 10,000 beast ding was acting up, it was obviously related to the heavenly Netherbird. Did that guy come out again? Lin Xian's face turned ugly. Chapter 1235. Sure enough, in the next moment, tens of thousands of lightning bolts struck down from the distance, attracting everyone's attention. Senmu College's disciples all looked up at the sky in shock. Not only Senmu College, but also the Palace of Ares, the Morong family, the Merrywoods, and the Deity Sword Villa. All the major powers and families looked up at the sky. The originally clear sky suddenly turned gloomy. Countless lightning bolts danced like wild snakes. It was a terrifying sight. Not only that, the sky suddenly split open, forming a 1,000-mile crack. It was as if the entire sky had split into two. Endless black flames poured out from the huge crack and instantly filled the sky. The black flames burned fiercely with a strange aura, as if they were the demonic flames of hell. In the next moment, a deep roar filled with endless anger and violent power rang out. In the end, a huge body flew out from the crack and filled the sky in an instant. It was a huge body. Its entire body was pitch black, and its black feathers looked as if they were made of demonic iron. There were black flames burning on them. Accompanying it was an earth-shattering demonic aura and a terrifying aura. The Heavenly Netherbird. It's the Heavenly Netherbird. Damn it, that guy actually came out. At this moment, the Palace of Ares, the Morong family, the Divine Bird Palace, and all the other major powers were shocked. Especially the martial artists who had just come out of the secret realm. They were all terrified as if they had seen a ghost. They had personally experienced the terror of the Heavenly Netherbird and naturally knew the consequences of such a peerless beast coming out. That huge body filled the sky, and a terrifying aura spread out in all directions. This scene deeply shocked everyone in the Tianwu continent. Is that the Heavenly Netherbird? It's too terrifying. In Senmu College, countless disciples looked up at the sky with pale faces. Many of them were even trembling slightly. Even though they were so far away, they still felt a sense of fear. It was as if the flames could tear them apart. It was too terrifying. Previously, they had heard from Lin Xian and the others that the Heavenly Netherbird was terrifying, but that was all they knew. Now that the Heavenly Netherbird had come out, they immediately realized how terrifying the Heavenly Netherbird was. At the same time, they looked at Lin Xian with admiration in their hearts. Lin Xian actually dared to stay with such a terrifying existence. It was simply too shocking. On the other hand, Lin Xian's face was gloomy. He didn't expect the Heavenly Netherbird to come out so quickly. This was not good news for him. So he immediately hid the feather and cut off any connection it had with the outside world. Otherwise, the Heavenly Netherbird would definitely be able to find him. As for the beast mark, Lin Xian did not activate it. Instead, he hid it deep within the sky Netherbird's body. The moment the Heavenly Netherbird appeared, it let out a loud roar and directly shattered the countless forests and mountains below. Countless mountains collapsed and rivers flowed in reverse. It was as if the world was about to be destroyed. Not only that, the countless black rocks in the sky turned into black birds and quickly flew in all directions, as if they were searching for something. In the academy, Dean Xian looked at the sky with a solemn expression. Then he quickly ordered, all disciples return to the academy and activate the academy's defensive formation. No one is allowed to leave during this time. In the face of a king-level demon beast, Senmu College immediately sealed the academy and prohibited the disciples from leaving. There was no other way. The Heavenly Netherbird was too terrifying. If they encountered it, there was no chance of survival. In fact, without Dean Xian's orders, the disciples would not have dared to go out and seek death. However, the academy activated the defensive formation, which made them feel a lot more at ease. Countless disciples rushed out like a flood. They retreated to the back. A formation appeared around Senmu College and completely enveloped the Senmu College. At the same time, the Palace of Ares, the Morong family, the Deity Sword Villa, and the other major forces also went into seclusion and activated the formation. Lin Xian also returned to the academy. He did not cultivate, but returned to the courtyard to have a good sleep. This time, Entering the hidden sky, secret realm was too dangerous. His mind was tense the entire time, and he did not have time to rest. Now that he was out, he naturally had to relax. He slept for 3 days and 3 nights. After that, Lin Xian woke up in great spirits. In the following days, the academy remained closed, and he did not go out. Instead, he began to organize his gains in the secret realm in his courtyard. It had to be said that the harvest this time was too great. First, his cultivation had increased from the 4th sky of the Venerable Realm to the 7th sky of the Venerable Realm. Then his dragon sword soul had reached the 8th sky of the Venerable Realm. It could be said that his cultivation and combat strength had undergone an earth-shaking change. Moreover, this was not his final form. He still had countless treasures in his hands. As long as he focused on cultivation, it would not be long before his strength could increase again. Also, he had obtained a primordial feather from the heavenly netherbird. It contained the origin flame and could allow him to condense a flame, martial soul. However, he did not plan to use it now. In addition, there was a 6,000-year-old purple thunder divine bamboo in the mysterious space in his body. The power of thunder and lightning on it was shocking. All that was left were all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. These things were all stored in his white bone ring. It was divided into 2 parts. One of them was collected by him. The other part was in the Pine Palace, where he robbed the storage rings of the people from the Palace of Gods of War and the Palace of Divine Birds. This was the most abundant part. Thinking of this, Lin Xian smiled. He reckoned that the people from the Palace of Gods of War and the Palace of Divine Birds must be mad. With a wave of his hand, Lin Xian set up a defensive formation around him. Then he flicked the storage ring, and countless treasures appeared in the void. Seeing these things, Lin Xian's eyes burned with passion. He took a deep breath. Each of these treasures could make a venerable go crazy. Now he had so many of them. If these things were taken out, it would cause a stir in the entire Tianwu continent. Next, Lin Xian began to organize them. He put the same things together so that it would be easier to manage them. Spiritual stones, pills, spiritual fruits, weapons, defensive equipment, all kinds of things were there. However, there was no cultivation technique. Because they did not enter the Pine Palace, they did not get any cultivation technique left behind by Taoist Sangsang. However, Lin Xian comprehended a stellar sword art from the Stellar Pavilion. Its power was extraordinary. Although it was not as good as a real earth rank martial art, it was close. When he was finally done, Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. He was too shocked. He knew about the things he had collected. What shocked him was the things in the storage rings of the Palace of Gods and the Palace of Divine Birds. The richness was far beyond his imagination. Chapter 1236. Especially the storage rings of Duan Tianqing and Yan Feng from the Palace of Gods of War. They were simply too rich, even more than what he had obtained. As expected of an 8th level supremacy, he's actually so rich. Lin Xian even found silver leaves and fire phoenix fruits in Duan Tianqing's storage ring. There were a total of 10. Presumably, Duan Tianqing had left these for the geniuses of the Palace of Gods of War. But now they were all Lin Xian's. In the end, Lin Xian sorted out everything. Among them, there were 30 high-grade spirit stones. These high-grade spirit stones were very rare, and they were usually only in the hands of a few House of Kings. The outside world could not see them at all. Lin Xian had 30 of them, which was already very shocking. There were also 13 half-Earth rank artifacts. Half-Earth rank artifacts were extremely precious weapons in the Tianwu continent. Each one of them could make countless supremacies go crazy. And now, Lin Xian actually had a total of 13 of them. Not only that, Lin Xian also had 5 Earth rank artifacts that were even more precious than half-Earth rank artifacts. Such good things would probably make even a 9th level supremacy covet them. There were also many spirit fruits and spirit herbs. It could be said to be extremely rich. Other than that, there were also countless metal materials. With these materials, Lin Xian could refine a crimson lotus battle armor. In short, Lin Xian had obtained a lot of things this time. Next, he divided these things into 3 parts. One of them was for himself. These things were the best of all the treasures. The other parts were left for the people around him. These things were not of use to him, but to the cultivators around him, they were precious treasures. The last part was for him to give to the academy. However, the things in his hands were far more than what the academy had. Therefore, Lin Xian planned to use the remaining to exchange for cultivation techniques. Of course, there was one more thing, and that was the dragon's blood that the Crimson Dragon had always wanted. Lin Xian had to exchange for the dragon blood. This was the agreement between him and the Crimson Dragon. As for the cultivation technique, he needed it very much as well. This was because he had only obtained the star's sword technique in the remote sky secret realm. Apart from that, he did not obtain any other cultivation techniques. However, there were many cultivation techniques in the True Spirit Palace, and there were also some precious ones. Therefore, he only needed to use materials to exchange for them. After summoning Wang, Li, and the others, Lin Xian distributed the treasures to them. Older brother Xian, is this for us? The group of people looked at the treasures on the ground and trembled with excitement. That's right, this is for you guys, Lin Xian said. Take it and distribute it. Let the brothers increase their cultivation and strength. Thank you, brother Xian. The group of people was excited. These were all true treasures of the heavens and earth, which were very rare in the outside world. They did not expect that Lin Xian would give them to them just like that. It seemed that the benefits of following Lin Xian were great. In an instant, these people became even more loyal to Lin Xian. After doing all this, Lin Xian made another trip to the True Spirit Palace. After handing over the treasures set by the academy, Lin Xian found the elder of the True Spirit Palace and told him the purpose of his visit. Oh, you want exchange for the dragon blood and the earth rank cultivation technique? The elder was also very surprised. One had to know that whether it was the dragon blood or the earth rank cultivation technique, they were both very precious, so their prices were also very high. Ordinary people would not be able to afford it. Even those who entered the remote sky secret realm would not dare to casually exchange for it. And now, Lin Xian actually wanted to exchange for both the cultivation technique and the dragon blood at the same time. It was simply too shocking. Do you know the value of these things? The elder of the True Spirit Palace asked in a deep voice. Elder, don't worry. I just returned from the remote sky secret realm. I still have some treasures with me that are enough to exchange for them. Seeing Lin Xian's confident smile, the elder of the True Spirit Palace nodded and then said with a smile, It seems that you have gained quite a lot from this trip to the remote sky secret realm. Senior, you flatter me. I was just lucky. When the surrounding disciples heard that Lin Xian wanted to exchange for the dragon blood and the earth rank cultivation technique, they were all extremely shocked. This Lin Xian is too generous. Even De Guotian and Li Yunfei are not as rich as him. What do you know? He entered the core area of the remote sky secret realm. He must have obtained a lot of good things. He entered the core area. His luck is so good. What good luck? He is bold. It is said that anyone can enter that place, but it is extremely dangerous. It can be said that there is only a slim chance of survival. A few days ago, the heavenly nether bird suddenly appeared. Do you know that peerless beast? At that time, that demonic beast was also in the Dark Pine Palace. What? It is so dangerous. Many people exclaimed. It seemed that these treasures were indeed not easy to obtain. Now, everyone knew how dangerous it was for Lin Xian to obtain those treasures. While the crowd was discussing, Lin Xian's expression did not change. He followed the True Spirit Hall elder and quickly walked into the depths of the palace. There was a strong protective barrier that covered a stone platform. On the stone platform, there was a palm-sized jade bowl. The jade bowl was crystal clear and incomparably green. It was actually carved out of a high-grade spiritual stone. Lin Xian knew how precious a high-grade spiritual stone was, but he did not expect it to be carved into a jade bowl to contain dragon blood. One could imagine how precious dragon blood was. Only Lin Xian had entered the remote sky secret realm and obtained a large amount of treasures. Only then did he have the qualifications to exchange for it. If it were anyone else, they would not even dare to think about it. In the end, Lin Xian used 2 Earth rank artifact fragments to exchange for the drop of dragon blood. The drop of dragon blood was the size of a fist and emitted a scarlet light. At the same time, Lin Xian could feel that it contained an extremely pure energy. If a martial artist consumed it, it would definitely strengthen their physique and blood and strengthen their martial arts foundation. After all, dragons were like divine beasts in the eyes of the world. Dragon blood was naturally very useful. However, Lin Xian did not want the dragon blood for himself. He wanted to prepare it for the crimson dragon. Carefully putting away the dragon blood, Lin Xian followed the true spirit hall elder to another place. This place was where the cultivation techniques were stored. In the sky, there were many jade slips floating, emitting a faint light. Beside them was a huge wall that was carved with the names and introductions of countless cultivation techniques. On this wall, the worst cultivation technique was a top spiritual rank cultivation technique. In addition, there was a large amount of half-earth rank cultivation techniques. There were even quite a few earth rank cultivation techniques. Looking at the cultivation techniques on the wall, Lin Xian took a deep breath. As expected of Senmu College, one of the top forces in the continent, there were so many precious cultivation techniques. There were also many earth rank cultivation techniques that were extremely expensive in the outside world. This was probably the foundation of a king's faction. Moreover, Lin Xian knew that what he saw was definitely only the tip of the iceberg. It seemed that the House of Kings was more powerful than he had imagined. Thinking that he would have to fight against half of the Palace of Ares in the future, Lin Xian felt extremely heavy. Shaking his head, he calmed himself and looked forward. Chapter 1237. Lin Xian skipped over the top spirit level techniques and half-earth level techniques and locked his eyes on the earth level techniques. In the end, he chose 2 techniques: Void Shattering Finger and 9 Changes in the Firmament. Void Shattering Finger was a type of finger technique with terrifying power. When practiced to the great success stage, it could penetrate all defenses, even the sky. 9 Changes in the Firmament was a powerful ability. When practiced to the great success stage, it could evolve 9 ancient beasts to fight against enemies. It could be said to be ever-changing and extremely useful. Lin Xian was very satisfied with these 2 techniques, so he did not hesitate and spent a lot of treasures to exchange for them. The elder of the true spirit palace waved his hand, and suddenly 2 jade slips turned into rainbows in the void above and arrived in front of Lin Xian in an instant. Lin Xian did not hesitate. He waved his hand and put the 2 jade slips into his storage ring. Then he left the true spirit palace. In the following days, Lin Xian began to practice Void Shattering Finger and 9 Changes in the Firmament. These 2 techniques were both earth-level techniques with great power, but they were also extremely difficult to practice. Fortunately, Lin Xian had experience in practicing earth-level techniques, so it was twice the result with half the effort. Among them, Void Shattering Finger required a special mental cultivation method to store spiritual power and use it at a critical moment. This spiritual power would be transformed into void, shattering qi, and stored in Lin Xian's fingers. When it was time to use it, it would be used instantly. In theory, all 10 fingers could store void shattering qi. However, this could only be achieved by the perfection stage. Lin Xian could only store it in 1 finger now. As for 9 changes in the firmament, it was 9 different seals. Each seal corresponded to an ancient beast. The 9 seals corresponded to 9 ancient beasts. Once they were used, their power could be said to be unparalleled. These 9 seals were Cheongqi, Tianpeng, Dijiang, 9-headed snakelet, Zhuyan, white tiger, Hanwu, Huafeng, and Songlong. Each of them was extremely terrifying. During this period, Lin Xian had been in seclusion to practice these 2 techniques and had made some progress. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. The heavenly netherbird had indeed caused some trouble in the martial sky continent. In the end, it had angered a king, resulting in a huge battle. However, the heavenly netherbird's condition wasn't good. It was often suppressed by the astral chains. Therefore, he did not gain any advantage in this battle. Very quickly, the news of the heavenly netherbird's defeat spread throughout the Tianwu continent. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they heard the news. On the other hand, Lin Xian frowned. He knew that this wasn't the heavenly netherbird's true strength. It was only because of the star chain that it was defeated. However, this was good news for him. At the very least, he wouldn't be attacked by the heavenly netherbird for a while. For a time, the various major forces also removed their defenses. And today, on one of the battlegrounds of the Immortal Martial Academy, an extremely intense battle was about to take place. The 2 sides of the battle were Dugu Outyin and Li Yunfei, whom everyone was extremely familiar with. At that moment, Li Yunfei's aura was extremely powerful. He had also broken through to the 7th heavenly layer of the Exalted Realm. I didn't expect you to break through to the 7th level of the Venerable Realm so quickly. However, you're still not my match, said Dugu Outyin. Whether I'm your match or not, we'll only know after we fight. Li Yunfei was confident and calm like an elegant young master. In the next moment, he waved his palm and quickly attacked Dugu Outyin. Palm shadows appeared one after another, descending from the sky and slamming down, instantly enveloping Dugu Outyin. A terrifying power flowed as if it wanted to suppress Dugu Outyin. Dugu Outyin also let out a long roar and quickly raised his sword to meet the attack. An extremely dazzling light burst out from the long sword. A sword chi was like a rainbow as it quickly slashed toward the huge palm of light. The 2 of them exchanged blows, and the momentum was extremely terrifying. After 50 moves, Li Yunfei was defeated. I lost. Li Yunfei retracted his hand. He wasn't very disappointed. Your improvement exceeded my expectations. If I hadn't entered the 7th level of the Venerable Realm in advance, the outcome of this battle would have been unknown. Dugu Outyin said as he sheathed his sword, no matter what, you're still first on the Mystic Venerable ranking. First? Dugu Outyin shook his head slightly. Not necessarily. We'll only know after we fight. You mean Lin Xian? Li Yunfei's expression also became serious. Indeed, he's entered the core area of the secret realm. I think his improvement this time will be even greater. I just don't know who's better this time. Great. I also want to fight with him. Why don't we go together? Sure. Then the 2 of them rose from the ground and flew toward the courtyard where Lin Xian was. At the same time, in Senmu College's punishment hall, Meng Tian took a deep breath and strode out of the hall. At that moment, a voice was heard. Junior Brother Meng, where are you going? A handsome young man asked. Senior Brother Joie, you're back, Meng Tian said with a smile. How was it? Did the mission go smoothly? It was all right. Although there were some hiccups along the way, it was completed successfully. The handsome young man, Zhuo Donglai, smiled and asked again, where are you going? Why do you look so serious? I'm going to fight with someone, Meng Tian said. Oh, who is it? Why are you taking it so seriously? Is it the boss? How could it be the boss? Ever since I lost to him in one punch, I don't dare to challenge him again. Meng Tian smiled bitterly and said, It's a junior brother I'm going to fight with this time. Oh, junior brother, is it Dugu Outyin? Why, has this guy improved so much in the remote sky secret realm that he can fight with you? Zhuo Donglai was puzzled. No, it's someone called Lin Xian. Lin Xian? I've heard of him. He's quite famous recently, but he doesn't seem to have the strength to fight with you. After all, there's a big age gap between the two of you. Zhuo Donglai was surprised. However, Meng Tian shook his head. Senior brother Zhuo, you haven't seen him before, so you don't know that he's very mysterious. When he was in the remote sky secret realm, he was able to fight against the 11th young master of the Shen family when he was only at the 6th sky of the Venerable Realm. Now that he was at the 7th sky of the Venerable Realm, he should be even stronger. Oh, you're saying that Lin Xian can fight against peerless geniuses who are at a higher level than him? This was interesting. Zhuo Donglai was also interested. I didn't expect our academy to have such a mysterious disciple. I must take a look. Okay, let's go together. Meng Tian nodded and then set off with Zhuo Donglai. In the courtyard, many people had gathered. Wang Li and the other disciples of the Dragon's Sword Pavilion were very excited. Brother Xian, thanks to the heavenly treasures you gave us, our cultivation has improved greatly in the past 2 months. He was very excited because this time he had directly advanced to the 6th sky of the Venerable Realm. It could be said that he had improved at a godly speed. In addition, Dong Fangxiong had also advanced to the 6th sky of the Venerable Realm, and the other strength had also increased greatly. Many of them had reached the 5th sky of the Venerable Realm. Although they couldn't be compared to Dugo Outyan, Li Yunfei, and the others, increasing their cultivation by 1 or 2 levels in just 2 months would shock everyone. After all, this was the Venerable Realm. Chapter 1238. The group of people looked at Lin Xian gratefully. Without the treasures that Lin Xian had given them, they would not have been able to improve their cultivation so much in such a short time. Brother Xian, we will never forget your kindness. As long as there's anything you need us to do, just tell us. We'll do anything. The group of people swore their loyalty. Lin Xian waved his hand. Don't be like this. We're all brothers. Of course, we'll share our blessings. As long as you don't betray me or the Dragon's Sword Pavilion, we'll be brothers for life. As Lin Xian was speaking, 2 air-piercing sounds came from afar. Soon, 2 figures landed on the ground like lightning. It's them. When Wang Li and the others saw that the 2 people were Dugo Outyan and Li Yunfei, they immediately became nervous. After all, these 2 were the top geniuses in the academy. Why are you 2 here? Lin Xian was also very surprised. Nothing, we just wanted to spar with you. Dugo Outyan did not beat around the bush and directly stated the purpose of his visit. Immediately, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and looked ahead. He realized that the other party's cultivation had become stronger. On the other side, Li Yunfei's cultivation had also reached the 7th level of the martial honor realm. It seemed that their cultivation had increased again. No wonder they wanted to spar with him. All right, it's time to change the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. Lin Xian stood up. He was still ranked 3rd on the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard, but his strength had already surpassed Dugo Outyan and the others. Now he could use this opportunity to advance to 1st place. Junior brother Meng, it seems that you're late. Someone made a move before you. At that moment, another voice was heard. 2 more figures descended from the sky. They were 2 young men. One of them was Meng Tian, and the other was a handsome young man. They were standing there with a smile. Greetings, senior brother Meng Tian, the group shouted. Meng Tian nodded, then pointed at the young man beside him and said, This is Zhuo Donglai, senior brother Zhuo. Greetings, senior brother Zhuo. The crowd shouted, then they were shocked. Could this be the genius who ranked 2nd on the previous Mystic Sovereign leaderboard? They were shocked. They didn't expect that not only had Meng Tian come, but he had also brought someone even more powerful. Zhuo Donglai had been ranked 2nd on the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. He had stayed in the punishment hall after graduation. Furthermore, he was even more powerful. He had reached the 8th heavenly layer of Exalted a long time ago. It could be said that he was even more powerful than them. No one expected that such a powerful person would actually come here. Senior brothers, why are you here? Lin Xian asked. It's nothing. I just want to spar with you. Senior brother Zhua is just here to watch the show. Meng Tian explained his intentions. What? Sparring with older brother Xian again? Everyone was stunned. If Dugu Outyan and Li Yunfei had come to spar, it would have been normal. After all, everyone's strength was about the same. They would have to compete for first place on the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. However, Meng Tian and Zhuo Donglai were different. After all, the two of them had graduated and were no longer disciples of the college. They would not compete with Lin Xian for the sake of ranking on the Mystic Honorable Board. Furthermore, the two of them were both 8th heavenly layer exalted. They could be said to be incomparably powerful. Even the older generation would admit that they were not as powerful as them. Although Lin Xian and Dugu Outyan were peerless geniuses, they were still young and their cultivation was only at the 7th heavenly layer exalted. They were no match for them at all. Of course, Wang Li and the others did not know about Lin Xian's current strength. They also did not know about Lin Xian's performance in the Pine Palace. That was why they were so confused. Although Meng Tian and the others had entered the remote sky secret realm, they were basically in another area and were not with Lin Xian. Therefore, they were not very clear about Lin Xian's combat strength. Therefore, these people did not know about Lin Xian's true strength. Furthermore, they did not think that Lin Xian had the combat strength of an 8th heavenly layer exalted. After all, the further one progressed, the harder it was to fight someone of a higher level. However, Lin Xian smiled faintly and said, If that's the case, please wait for a while, Senior Brother Meng. Let's spar after Dugu and I are done. Okay. Meng Tian nodded and then retreated to the side. Zhuo Donglai was also very interested. In his opinion, Dugu Outyan and Lin Xian's strength were about the same. It should be a fierce battle between the two of them. This way, he could observe more clearly what was so special about Lin Xian. Seeing this, Li Yunfei and the other disciples of the Dragon Sword Pavilion also retreated to the side to give them enough space. Everyone held their breaths and waited patiently. The disciples of the Dragon Sword Pavilion were also excited. After all, both of them were top geniuses. This kind of battle was not common. If that's the case, I won't hold back. Dugu Outyan drew his sword and quickly circulated his spiritual energy. Suddenly, the long sword emitted a dazzling light. Dugu 9 swords. Dugu Outyan's first move was an extremely fierce killing move. 9 streaks of sword qi shot out like rainbows, and a long sword slashed across the void. At the side, Zhuo Donglai smiled and said, Dugu Outyan is very cautious. He used his ultimate skill right from the start. Good. Let's see what Lin Xian will use to deal with it. Meng Tian nodded slightly. Dugu Outyan's sword was indeed not bad. It already had an invincible aura. Not many 7th level honorables could take it. Wang Li and the others were also shocked. They had heard of the Dugu 9 swords. It was Dugu Outyan's famous ultimate skill. He was a very powerful killer. They did not expect Dugu Outyan to use this ultimate skill right from the start. At that moment, they could not help but worry about Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian's face was calm. There was not a trace of nervousness. His palms moved and quickly formed a strange seal. Then he slowly pressed forward. Buzz! Strong winds blew, and the void trembled. Endless spiritual energy formed a huge body and roared in all directions. It was a ferocious beast. It looked like a cow, but its body was full of spikes. Its whole body emitted a powerful aura. As soon as the ferocious beast appeared, it created a terrifying aura. It quickly rushed toward the 9 streaks of sword qi. This is... Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Even Meng Tian and Zhuo Donglai were surprised. If I'm not wrong, this should be the 9 changes of the firmament from the true Spirit Palace. This should be the Qiong Qi transformation, Meng Tian said. I didn't expect him to exchange for the 9 changes of the firmament. Yes, not only did he exchange it, but he also cultivated it. Look at how powerful the Cheongqi shadow is. I'm afraid a 7th level honorable will not be able to resist it. Shuadonglai was also very surprised. He did not expect Lin Xian to have mastered the 9 changes of the firmament. What a magical kid. Looks like Dugu Outyen is going to be unlucky. Sure enough, the huge Cheongqi in the sky swept across and immediately blasted the 9 streaks of sword chi away. Then it quickly rushed toward Dugu Outyen. Dugu Outyen's pupils shrank. He did not expect Lin Xian to have such a strange skill. It could actually break his 9 swords of the Dugu in an instant. This surprised him. However, he was a top genius. Although he missed, he would not be defeated. He took a deep breath and quickly dodged to the side. Chapter 1239. Telepathic Sword Technique. After witnessing Lin Xian's power, Dugu Outyen did not hesitate and used a powerful sword technique. It was also an Earth-grade sword technique that he had exchanged from the True Spirit Hull. It was called the Telepathic Sword Technique. The power of this sword technique was boundless. Although he had just obtained it and had not mastered it, the power of an Earth-grade sword technique could not be underestimated. As expected, as soon as the telepathic sword technique was used, sword lights danced in the sky and quickly blocked Cheongqi. Seeing this scene, Dugu Outyen secretly heaved a sigh of relief. On the other hand, Lin Xian was surprised. He did not expect Dugu Outyen to have an Earth-grade sword technique. However, he did not care. In the next moment, his hand seals slowly changed, and then he shouted in a low voice, "Cheongqi transformation, sky-shaking roar." Along with his hand seals, the huge Cheongqi phantom in the void above also moved quickly. Although it was a phantom, the 9 changes of the firmament was extremely mysterious. At this moment, Cheongqi was like a real, peerless beast. It roared at the sky as if it was using a consummate skill. Sure enough, in the next moment, the spiritual power in the sky vibrated, and a materialized sound wave quickly surged forward. The sound wave was blue like the sea. It was extremely terrifying and contained terrifying power. If one was hit by the sound wave, even an 8th level supremacy would not be able to withstand it. The sound wave was too terrifying, so even if Dugu Outyen had the telepathic sword technique, he could not resist it. The sword lights that filled the sky disappeared, and Dugu Outyen kept retreating. Fortunately, this was just an ordinary spar, and Lin Xian did not kill him, so Dugu Outyen was not injured. However, the blood in his body was also surging, and he could not mobilize his spiritual power for a short period of time. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Their mouths were wide open in disbelief. 2 moves. In just 2 moves, Dugu Outyen was defeated. That was Dugu Outyen. He was the top genius among Senma College's disciples, but he was defeated just like that. For a moment, everyone looked at Lin Xian in shock. Impossible! How is this possible? Has this kid's strength increased to such a level? At the side, Li Yunfei looked panicked. Before he came, he was still guessing whether Lin Xian or Dugu Outyen would win, because in his opinion the battle between the 2 of them would definitely be a battle between a dragon and a tiger, and it would be difficult to determine the victor. However, he did not expect that the situation would be one-sided. In 2 moves, Dugu Outyen was defeated. He found it hard to believe for a moment. The surrounding disciples of the Dragon Sword Pavilion were even more excited. They clenched their fists, and their faces were filled with ecstasy. Older brother Xian defeated Dugu Outyen in 2 moves. It can't be. This is too shocking, isn't it? Is older brother Xian already so powerful? Older brother Xian is mighty and domineering. The group was excited. In the distance, Meng Tian and Zhuo Donglai were also shocked. They had not expected such a thing to happen. His improvement was indeed godly. Meng Tian's voice was grave. Zhuo Donglai was also surprised. No wonder you thought so highly of this little boy. He is so mysterious, and his fighting power is so strong. His battle prowess was probably close to that of the 8th heavenly layer venerable realm. The two of them quickly conversed, and their understanding of Lin Xian increased once again. On the stage, Duge Haotian was struggling to stabilize the blood in his body. Until now, his mind was still blank, because he could not accept the current situation at all. 2 moves, only 2 moves. He was full of confidence before, thinking that he would definitely be able to defeat Lin Xian this time. But he did not expect that the other party would defeat him in 2 moves. Thinking of this, his body began to tremble. In the end, he sighed and said with an incomparably lonely expression, "I lost. Thank you for letting me win." Lin Xian said indifferently, but his heart was filled with ecstasy. The 9 changes of the firmament was indeed powerful. He had only used the first change, the Qiongqi transformation, to defeat Duge Haotian in 2 moves. It was really beyond his expectations. At the same time in Senma College, the rankings on the black stone tablet that was tens of thousands of feet tall changed once again. Lin Xian, who was originally ranked 3rd, suddenly flickered like the sun. He quickly rose up and finally jumped to the 1st position. His name had also turned purplish gold. Duge Haotian, who was originally ranked 1st, had dropped to 2nd place. After him, Li Yunfei and the others dropped 1 place in succession. Big news, earth-shattering news. Look, the mysterious sovereign ranking has changed. Countless disciples went crazy. Isn't it normal for there to be changes? After all, many experts have improved a lot in the remote sky secret realm this time. No, it's Lin Xian and Duge Haotian. Lin Xian's name has jumped to 1st place. What? You're saying that Duge Haotian lost? Everyone was shocked. Although they did not see the battle between Lin Xian and Duge Haotian with their own eyes, the change in the names had already explained the result. That was Duge Haotian. He had always been the top genius in the college, an existence that countless people looked up to. However, he had now lost. Moreover, he had not lost to his strong opponent, Li Yunfei, but to a new student who had just entered the college for a year. He had successfully reached 1st place on the mysterious sovereign ranking within a year of entering the college. This result had never happened before. It could be said that Lin Xian had created a miracle. No way! Didn't Duge Haotian enter the remote sky secret realm this time and increase his strength greatly? Yeah, I remember that he has already reached the 7th level honorable realm. Could it be that he can't defeat Lin Xian with such strength? Oh my God, Lin Xian is too scary. How old is he? He's only 20 years old, but he's already a 7th level honorable realm with such powerful combat strength. I'm afraid his future achievements will be limitless. On this day, the entire Senma College went crazy. However, they did not know that something even crazier was about to happen in Lin Xian's courtyard. Duge Haotian had already recovered from his initial shock. He looked disappointed and retreated to the side. That was because there was still 1 more battle. Senior Brother Meng, please. Meng Tian nodded. Then his body swayed and he entered the arena. In the next moment, the aura in his body exploded. Junior Brother Lin, let me see how much you've grown. Meng Tian's voice was steady. Then the aura of an 8th level honorable realm exploded. Everyone's body stiffened when they felt this aura. This aura was too terrifying. Even Duge Haotian and Li Yunfei could not withstand it. The only 2 people who were not affected were Zhuo Donglai and Lin Xian. Zhuo Donglai was an 8th level honorable realm, so his strength was above Meng Tian's. Therefore, he was not affected at all. However, the other person caused everyone to be extremely shocked. That was Lin Xian. He was only a 7th level honorable realm cultivator, but he was not afraid of the 8th level honorable realm cultivator's aura at all. This kid is indeed strange. He can actually ignore the aura of an 8th level honorable realm cultivator. Zhuo Donglai narrowed his eyes. Meng Tian let out a low growl and quickly attacked. 8 Divine Fist. Meng Tian's hair fluttered in the wind. He was like a divine demon, full of fighting spirit. As soon as he attacked, he displayed a powerful fist technique.